The observable universe stretches farther than any mind can comfortably hold, an expanse so wide that even light, moving faster than anything in existence, would need billions of years to cross it. When astronomers map it, they see a structure built from webs of galaxies, clusters, and superclusters, all threaded together by ancient gravity. Why we are likely alone in the universe. Each galaxy carries hundreds of billions of stars, and many of those stars carry worlds circling them. With every improvement in telescopes, the count rises. It is no longer a question of whether planets exist, but how many types of worlds are out there, and how many sit in regions where life could begin. The scale alone should make life feel inevitable. When viewers hear these numbers, it sounds almost unreasonable to think Earth could be the only world where chemistry and biology ever merged into something that breathes, grows, senses, and communicates. Yet the deeper astronomers look, the stranger the silence becomes. You can sweep across the Milky Way's radio bands and find nothing that resembles a message or even the faint noise of someone else's machinery. You can check the sky for infrared signatures that might mark giant engineered structures around distant stars, and the results stay empty. You can scan for short, bright laser pulses or complex patterns hidden inside starlight, and the sky remains unchanged. This is the paradox that drives scientists. The universe is huge, full of energy, full of stars with planets around them, full of places where life could begin, but every search for company returns the same answer: nothing. This silence didn't always seem puzzling. Early astronomers had no idea what lay around other stars. Many believed planets were rare or that Earth held a special place. That illusion vanished once the first exoplanets were found. The announcements began slow, then grew into a flood. Kepler's years of data showed that planets were everywhere. Later missions found entire families of worlds around nearby stars, each with its own temperature, atmosphere, and orbit. It became normal to expect planets rather than wonder if they existed. The more catalogues expanded, the more confident researchers became about the odds. With so many planets and so many stars across such enormous distances, even a tiny probability of life would still suggest countless living worlds scattered through the galaxy. Yet something about the way the universe behaves does not match that expectation. The more advanced the surveys become, the more the silence hardens. Part of this silence comes from the shape of the sky itself. When powerful radio dishes sweep the horizon, the signals they catch are natural sources. Pulsars spin like lighthouses. Quasars blast across billions of light years. Molecular clouds give off faint emission lines. Yet through all of that activity, nothing artificial rises from the noise. The background is clean, smooth, and effortless to interpret. If any civilization were transmitting, leaking energy, or lighting up its star system with sprawling machinery, telescopes should have some hint of it by now. Instead, the signals look like they always have. There is also the absence of techno signatures in ranges where astronomers thought detection would be easiest. If a civilization used huge structures to gather a star's energy, those structures would glow in infrared, even if they tried to hide. If a civilization worked on scales larger than planets, the light curve of their star might shift in ways that natural processes cannot mimic. If someone sent out probes, some trace should appear in our own solar system. Instead, everything examined behaves the way standard physics predicts. This growing quiet pushes researchers toward a different kind of question. Maybe silence does not come from isolation or distance. Maybe the requirements for life, especially complex life, are far sharper than anyone expected. Once the focus shifts from the vastness of space to the specific conditions needed for chemistry to push forward for billions of years, the universe starts to feel less friendly. It begins to feel selective, almost narrow, not in a mystical sense, but in a chemical one. Something about the recipe of life requires a set of conditions that form rarely and survive even less often. To understand that, the first step is understanding what life actually needs. What life as we know it actually needs. Life on Earth runs on familiar ingredients: carbon-based molecules, water in liquid form, and a range of elements pulled from the periodic table. These basics appear simple, almost universal, which is why many people think life should be common. But once scientists examine how these parts interact, the requirements become more precise. Carbon is abundant, but not every environment allows it to form the long, stable chains needed to store information. Water is everywhere in its frozen form, yet liquid water needs a tight temperature range and controlled pressure. Even the elements needed in trace amounts must exist in the right proportions. One of the strongest limits comes from the periodic table. It allows only certain atoms to form bonds stable enough to hold complex structures together. Carbon can make chains and rings that do not fall apart easily, which lets it carry energy and information inside a living cell. Silicon, often cited as an alternative, forms bonds that break down under geological heat or dissolve in water. Most other elements form molecules too simple to support anything as intricate as replication. Even with trillions of planets, only a small number of chemical combinations can produce systems capable of variation and growth. Water adds more restrictions. It dissolves salts, balances pH, carries heat, and lets molecules move freely. But water cannot stay liquid everywhere. Most planets either freeze over or heat until their water escapes into space. Around many stars, the region where water can remain liquid over long timescales is thin. A slight shift in orbit, a small change in atmospheric pressure, or a stronger radiation environment can push a planet out of that range. Over billions of years, maintaining the right temperature becomes far more challenging than simply forming a world inside a habitable zone. Beyond basic chemistry, life requires molecules that remain stable long enough to interact. That stability depends on energy coming in steady, controlled amounts. Too much radiation breaks molecules apart faster than they can assemble. Too little energy prevents reactions from occurring. Stellar activity becomes critical. Many stars, especially small ones, blast their planets with flares, stripping atmospheres or boiling oceans away. Even stars that look calm from afar can shift unpredictably across geological ages. Building complexity requires something even rarer, an environment that remains stable for billions of years without complete resets. On Earth, the atmosphere, oceans, and crust supported chemical reactions long enough for simple molecules to combine into systems that could copy themselves. Those early systems needed a sheltered place, likely rich in minerals and protected from extreme temperature swings. Not every planet offers such shelters. Many lose their crust stability early. Others rotate too slowly or too fast. Some experience tidal disruption from nearby planets or moons. Some worlds drown in deep oceans without any landmass to provide mineral-rich hydrothermal zones. Scientists track these limits through models and observations. When they examine exoplanets with thick atmospheres or surfaces of molten rock, they see places where the building blocks of life could never settle into complex behavior. When they inspect worlds with thin atmospheres or extreme pressures, they find similar limitations. Even planets that look Earth-like from a distance often turn out to hold temperatures too high, or atmospheres dominated by gases that prevent stable organic chemistry. Stability over geological time becomes one of the biggest obstacles. Life on Earth needed more than 4 billion years to reach its present complexity. That long timeline meant Earth required protection from excessive radiation, heavy bombardment, runaway greenhouse effects, and the complete evaporation or freezing of its oceans. Most planets studied so far appear unable to maintain unbroken stability for that long. Even slight shifts in star behavior can change the entire energy balance of a planet, shutting down the chemical progress required for biology to advance. The environments where early replicating systems could arise are narrower than expected. They demand specific mineral compositions, specific temperature gradients, stable access to liquid water, and chemical cycles that do not lock essential elements away. Many worlds lack volcanic activity strong enough to recycle nutrients. Some possess too much volcanic output, creating toxic atmospheres. The balance needed for life is delicate across every factor scientists can measure. As researchers look deeper into these requirements, they find fewer planets that remain candidates for hosting life as we understand it. Earth's conditions do not simply fall within the right range, they remain anchored there for billions of years. That anchoring depends on countless factors: the right mix of elements in the crust, the right gravitational balance with the Moon, the right thickness of atmosphere, the right distance from the Sun, and the right type of star. When any one of these shifts, the entire system changes in ways that can stop chemistry from advancing. This is not an argument that life is impossible elsewhere. It is a recognition that the universe may produce habitable environments far less often than the number of planets suggests. Galaxies carry trillions of worlds, but not all worlds offer the conditions needed for chemistry to organize into self-sustaining systems. Out of the planets that might hold water, only a fraction maintain it long-term. Out of those that have water, only some have stable surfaces. Out of those, only a handful could support the specific reactions that lead to replication. The silence across cosmic distances may come from this narrow window. Life as we know it depends on chemistry that needs more than a warm surface and some water. It needs an environment where molecules can survive, interact, and evolve without constant resets. It needs trace elements that must be available in specific ratios. It needs a star that behaves gently over geological time. It needs a planet that does not freeze, boil, or dry up. Even the presence of a magnetic field turns out to be crucial, because without it, solar wind strips atmospheres away. As missions like JWST and high-resolution ground observatories examine distant atmospheres, the results show how delicate these conditions truly are. Some planets once considered promising show signs of runaway heat. Others lost their atmospheres entirely. Some appear locked in orbits where one side faces the star permanently, creating extremes between scorching and frozen hemispheres. These discoveries increase the sense that Earth is not an average case, but an exception, shaped by a rare alignment of factors that allowed chemistry to reach a threshold where life could begin. But you may wonder, everything seems perfect for life, but why is the silence absolute? When people hear about the size of the universe, it feels natural to expect company. Yet despite all the planets, all the energy, all the galaxies, and all the time available, the universe offers no sign that anyone else has built technology, transmitted signals, or altered their surroundings in detectable ways. This silence stands out because if life were common, it should leave traces across multiple wavelength ranges. A civilization using even modest technology would accidentally leak signals as it communicates, explores, or operates machinery. Radio surveys stretch decades back. These projects scanned millions of stars and listened across wide frequency bands. They did not uncover hidden patterns or clear signs of transmission. Instead, they captured natural processes and human interference, both easy to identify. The sky remained quiet, not because telescopes lacked sensitivity, but because nothing artificial appeared. Infrared studies searched for the heat signatures of giant structures, something that would glow strongly if built around a star. Engineers on Earth understand that machines and structures emit waste heat when they operate, and this principle applies regardless of species or location. Yet the deep infrared scans show stars behaving normally, their spectra unaltered. Optical searches looked for laser pulses, another straightforward techno signature. A short, bright pulse could carry information across space far more efficiently than a radio wave. But again, the sky remained unchanged. No pulses repeated, no patterns formed, no unexpected signals arrived. This absence becomes even more striking when matched against modern galactic surveys. Across wide swathes of the Milky Way, telescopes map regions with high precision. They measure gas clouds, star clusters, stellar nurseries, and the faint glow of metal-rich zones. They reveal a galaxy full of activity, but none of it appears engineered. Nothing shows the hallmarks of deliberate construction or manipulation. As the catalogues grow and the sensitivity of instruments improves, The silence becomes a stronger data point, not weaker. The missing techno signatures matter because the universe is not subtle. It displays everything from the death of stars to the collision of galaxies. If something built machines on a large scale, if something transmitted powerfully, if something reshaped planets or stars, it would show up somewhere. This absolute quiet forces scientists to examine the conditions required for life more closely. The scale is large, but the chemistry that supports biology is tight and restrictive. The more we learn about planets, atmospheres, and stellar behavior, the clearer it becomes that the environments needed for life might form rarely, and the environments needed for technology might form even less often. Formation of Earth-like planets. Earth did not appear out of random luck. Its formation was the result of a chain of events stretching across billions of years, shaped by elements forged in stars long before our solar system existed. Astronomers measure this through metallicity, a term that describes the proportion of elements heavier than hydrogen and helium in a star. These metals are not rare in the universe, but they appear unevenly and at specific times in cosmic history. The first generations of stars created hydrogen and helium, but heavier elements, the ones that form rocky planets, only emerged after successive supernovae enriched interstellar clouds. Earth is a product of a late wave of stellar generations, forming when the galaxy contained enough metals to build a dense solid world. A planet forming too early would lack the iron, silicon, oxygen, magnesium, and trace elements that make life-supporting crusts possible. Planets forming too late might appear around stars that are isolated or too small to support long-lived stable environments. Protoplanetary disks, the swirling clouds of gas and dust around young stars, shape what kind of worlds can exist. These disks vary in density, size, and composition. Some collapse quickly, forming gas giants before any rocky worlds can settle. Others disperse too slowly, leaving insufficient material for terrestrial planets. Within these disks, temperature gradients control where certain elements condense. Metals and silicates settle closer to the star, ices and volatiles farther out. Earth occupies a position where water, carbon, and rock combined in just the right proportions. Slight differences in disk mass, temperature, or chemistry would create either a dry, barren world or a volatile hell of greenhouse gases and tidal extremes. Researchers now understand that only a narrow subset of disks produces planets like Earth, where the building blocks for oceans, continents, and an atmosphere with stable oxygen levels can coexist. Timing is another crucial factor. Stars with lifespans too short for long-term chemical evolution cannot host Earth-like planets that survive billions of years. Massive stars burn out quickly, creating instability through supernova shockwaves that scatter nearby planetary systems. Lower mass stars, by contrast, burn steadily for trillions of years, but may form in environments with low metallicity or intense radiation fields. Earth formed around a sun with the perfect mass, long-term stability, and metallicity to allow a habitable planet to form, retain a thick atmosphere, and sustain oceans without losing volatile compounds to space. This combination is statistically rare and requires a precise chain of galactic events, from the birth of metals to the calm collapse of a protoplanetary disk in a midlife stellar neighborhood. Even the distribution of specific isotopes matters. Elements like uranium and thorium provide heat through radioactive decay, fueling mantle convection that drives plate tectonics. Plate tectonics is not just a geological curiosity. It regulates the carbon cycle, stabilizes the climate, and recycles nutrients necessary for complex chemistry. Too little radioactive material, and the planet cools too fast, freezing geological activity. Too much, and volcanism and atmospheric eruptions sterilize the surface repeatedly. Earth sits in a sweet spot, a result of the timing of supernovae near the protosolar cloud and the particular mix of heavy elements they delivered. That mix is not common. Planet-forming disks with similar isotopic ratios are estimated to be rare. reducing the likelihood of Earth-like worlds elsewhere. Earth did not face the universe alone. Its orbit and the survival of its surface chemistry depended on giant companions. Jupiter, sitting beyond the asteroid belt, is more than a massive planet. It acts as a shield. Its gravity captures or deflects a significant portion of comets and asteroids that would otherwise strike inner planets. Without it, Earth would be pummeled with catastrophic impacts, each capable of erasing budding life. Observations of other planetary systems reveal how uncommon such protective giants are. Some systems are packed with multiple gas giants in eccentric orbits, destabilizing everything closer to the star. Others have none at all, leaving their terrestrial planets exposed to cosmic bombardment. The combination of a gas giant in a stable, distant orbit while leaving inner planets unperturbed is not the norm. Statistical models show that solar systems with this architecture represent a small fraction of what telescopes detect. The position of Jupiter is as important as its presence. Too close, and the planet would strip the inner system of planet-forming material. Too far, and it would be unable to capture incoming asteroids and comets efficiently. Even small variations in orbital eccentricity or inclination have massive consequences. A slightly more eccentric orbit would sling more material toward the inner system, raising the likelihood of sterilizing collisions. A more circular orbit, but at the wrong distance, would fail to reduce dangerous bombardment. Earth owes its calm history, in part, to the precise location and mass of its largest planetary neighbor. Observations of exoplanetary systems show that Jupiter-like planets are surprisingly rare. Many detected gas giants orbit close to their stars in hot Jupiter configurations. These planets, often migrating inward from where they formed, destroy the stability of inner rocky worlds, either consuming material during migration or gravitationally destabilizing any planets already in orbit. The discovery of these hot Jupiters indicated that the pathway to stable terrestrial planets is narrow. It is not enough to form a planet. The system must avoid disruptive migration events and maintain order over billions of years. Even systems with multiple small gas giants can increase orbital chaos. When planets tug on each other over millions of years, their gravitational interactions often result in collisions, ejections, or wildly eccentric orbits. Any inner rocky planet caught in these interactions is likely to face extreme climate swings or total destruction. Earth's survival required that our gas giant neighbors maintain relative stability. That stability has endured for billions of years, a rarity confirmed by simulations, showing that most planetary systems evolve into less hospitable arrangements over time. Beyond shielding, giant planets also affect delivery of volatiles like water to inner worlds. Asteroids and comets redirected by Jupiter's gravity carried essential materials to Earth's surface, helping build oceans and enabling prebiotic chemistry. In systems lacking similar giants, inner planets may form dry, barren worlds incapable of sustaining chemistry that leads to life. The presence of a Jupiter-like planet in the right place, with the right mass, creates a dynamic environment where inner planets gain protection and receive essential materials simultaneously. This combination is statistically rare and adds another constraint to the formation of Earth-like worlds. Even with a protective giant and the right disk chemistry, the long-term survival of a habitable world depends on orbital stability. Planets around stars are not guaranteed to remain in stable, life-supporting orbits for billions of years. Small shifts in eccentricity or inclination can result in massive climate swings, periodic freezing or overheating, and complete destabilization of the environment needed for chemistry to proceed uninterrupted. Stable orbits depend on the precise distribution of mass in the system, the timing of nearby stellar encounters, and the gravitational interactions of other planets, moons, and debris. Stellar behavior plays a major role. Stars with calm magnetic cycles maintain steady energy output and limit dangerous flares. A planet in the habitable zone of a volatile star, even if perfectly Earth-like in size and composition, may never sustain liquid water long enough for life to form. Red dwarfs, the most common stars in the galaxy, are especially challenging. Many tidally lock planets in their habitable zones, leaving one side scorching and the other frozen. Flares can blast the atmosphere with X-rays and charged particles, stripping water and protective gases from the surface. Only a minority of planets orbit stars that maintain long-term calm while still providing sufficient light and warmth. Long-term stability also requires minimal external perturbation. Passing stars, dense stellar clusters, or chaotic multistar systems create gravitational stress that can eject planets or shift their orbits into inhospitable zones. Earth's orbit remains nearly circular, allowing a consistent climate over geological timescales. Its position has avoided both catastrophic excursions toward the Sun and deep freezes far from it. Achieving this stability involves more than luck. It requires a precise balance of orbital mechanics and stellar behavior. Many exoplanet systems observed so far show variations that would prevent chemical systems from progressing beyond simple, fragile molecules. This stability extends to the interior of planets. Tidal heating, axial tilt variations, and orbital resonance can all affect the surface conditions that chemistry relies on. Earth's tilt and rotation remain within narrow limits, producing predictable seasons and limiting extreme climatic shifts. The Moon plays a role in stabilizing tilt, further extending the rare alignment of factors that make the planet hospitable. Without these subtle stabilizing influences, chemistry might proceed for a few million years before conditions become hostile, preventing the emergence of complex prebiotic networks. The difficulty of abiogenesis. Life did not emerge from a simple mix of elements and water. The earliest chemistry required molecules that could store information, catalyze reactions, and reproduce themselves long enough to survive environmental changes. In laboratories, scientists have tried to recreate these conditions, simulating volcanic vents, tidal pools, and early oceans. But every experiment exposes how fragile the process is. Amino acids can form under certain conditions, nucleotides can appear from precise reactions, and short chains of RNA can assemble. Yet these building blocks almost never self-organize into networks capable of sustaining life. In lab experiments, even tiny impurities or shifts in temperature stop the reactions. The instability of protomolecules is extreme. Heat, ultraviolet radiation, fluctuations in pH, or contact with mineral surfaces can break them down faster than they can link together. The RNA world hypothesis highlights the scale of the challenge. RNA can store information and act as a catalyst, making it a prime candidate for life's first self-replicators. But forming RNA spontaneously requires an extraordinary combination of conditions: specific concentrations of nucleotides, precise energy input, protection from water that would hydrolyze bonds, and the presence of certain metal ions to stabilize the chain. Missing any of these factors, and the molecules fall apart before replicating. Chirality adds another layer of complexity. Life on Earth uses molecules of a single-handedness: left-handed amino acids, right-handed sugars. In a prebiotic world, molecules form randomly with equal left and right forms. Creating a system dominated by one type requires a process that selectively amplifies one orientation, a process that experiments can mimic only under controlled, highly artificial conditions. Even if all these hurdles are overcome, the molecular systems remain fragile. Protocells, vesicles, and lipid membranes can form spontaneously, but they rarely last long enough for reactions inside to complete. They leak, collapse, or fuse randomly, destroying the delicate chemistry within. Each stage requires a precise sequence. Molecules assemble, reactions stabilize, protocells encapsulate them, and replication begins. The probability of all these steps occurring consecutively on a planet is vanishingly low. Lab studies illustrate that assembling all necessary ingredients under the correct conditions and letting them survive long enough to evolve into living systems is an extraordinary challenge that could easily take billions of trials to succeed. Environmental constraints magnify the difficulty. Conditions that allow molecule formation may be hostile to replication. Warm ponds accelerate reactions but increase breakdown rates. Hydrothermal vents provide chemical energy but can destabilize fragile compounds. UV light creates nucleotides but destroys them without protection. Even slight variations in mineral surfaces, temperature gradients, or water chemistry can prevent proto-molecules from forming stable chains. Earth had to balance these forces perfectly, allowing chemistry to progress far enough for the first life to emerge, without destroying it along the way. When scientists examine the earliest rocks on Earth, the evidence is startling. As soon as the planet cooled and formed oceans, chemical signatures point to life. Carbon isotope ratios indicate biological activity around 4.1 to 4.0 billion years ago, not long after the late heavy bombardment ended and Earth's surface stabilized. The rapidity of life's appearance is extraordinary because the conditions for chemistry to progress into life are narrow and fragile. This timing suggests that Earth did not just passively host life, it hit a rare alignment of factors that made abiogenesis possible almost immediately. The speed of emergence implies that the underlying chemical processes must have been extremely efficient, occurring under ideal circumstances. The oceans were still young, the crust still forming, and impacts from space still frequent, yet life survived and proliferated. The prebiotic chemistry, the availability of organic precursors, the right energy sources, and a hospitable environment combined in a way that in many other scenarios would have failed. Observations of ancient zircons and isotopic ratios reveal that these factors converged almost perfectly. On many other planets, the conditions could exist individually, but not simultaneously for the required period. On Earth, they did, producing a near-impossible jackpot that allowed life to leave detectable traces quickly. This early life left clear markers, from stromatolite formations to isotopic fractionation in ancient minerals, revealing a biological presence millions of years after conditions became stable. That speed is not trivial. Models for life's spontaneous appearance in the galaxy predict that even in habitable zones, chemistry could take hundreds of millions to billions of years to organize into self-replicating systems. Earth defies those odds, showing that once the conditions aligned, the transition to life happened faster than expected. The fact that these processes occurred while the planet was still young adds to the improbability. Any slight disruption from asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, or extreme fluctuations in temperature could have destroyed nascent life before it left evidence. Earth's rapid biological imprint suggests that the planet benefited from a combination of environmental stability and chemical readiness that other worlds may never achieve. This near-instant emergence of life also interacts with the concept of the Great Filter. If the chemical and environmental requirements for life are this precise, the filter may lie not in the evolution of complex organisms or intelligence, but in the raw act of forming life itself. The emergence of life almost immediately after habitability indicates that Earth overcame a barrier most planets never cross. It means that while planets may have water, metals, and energy, very few may ever provide the continuous, stable chemistry that allows proto-molecules to survive, replicate, and eventually evolve. Earth's success is not typical. It is an extraordinary example of chemical, geological, and astronomical factors converging perfectly. The evidence also shows that life did not just survive, but persisted. Once the first self-replicating molecules emerged, they found niches in oceans, sediments, and mineral interfaces, avoiding destruction while continuing to develop complexity. This persistence hints that the early environment was uniquely supportive. Factors like ocean chemistry, temperature gradients, the presence of catalytic minerals, and tidal cycles all combine to create stable microenvironments. On planets lacking these features, molecules may assemble briefly and collapse, never reaching the threshold of true life. Earth's geological and chemical stability in its earliest eras allowed life to maintain continuity, a factor essential for the rapid biological imprint seen in the rock record. When astronomers and astrobiologists model abiogenesis on a galactic scale, the timelines are daunting. Even in star systems with rocky planets, liquid water, and moderate temperatures, the odds of life forming are extremely low. Calculations suggest that forming self-replicating molecules under natural planetary conditions might require hundreds of millions of years or more. The universe has seen trillions of stars and planets, yet chemical environments suitable for life are fragile, fleeting, and often disrupted. Many planets within the so-called habitable zones are exposed to stellar flares, orbital instabilities, or atmospheric loss that reset chemical progress repeatedly. Earth did not follow these typical odds. Life began unusually quickly in a geological blink, implying that the prebiotic chemistry, energy sources, and planetary conditions were nearly optimal. If this rapidity were common, we would expect to see signs of life elsewhere by now, yet surveys of exoplanets reveal atmospheres lacking biosignatures, surfaces stripped by radiation, and environments chemically hostile to molecule assembly. Simulations of other planetary systems show that many worlds might never maintain stable, energy-rich conditions for long enough to permit life. The contrast with Earth is stark. A planet that could have failed multiple times due to asteroid bombardment, extreme volcanism, or tidal disruption. Instead, maintained continuity long enough for life to emerge and persist. This disparity points to a filter early in the timeline. The spontaneous origin of life may be the most improbable step, far rarer than the development of intelligence, technological capability, or communication signals. Across the galaxy, planets might host water, atmospheres, or rocky surfaces, but the chemical choreography required for self-replication remains elusive. The expected timelines for this process are not linear or uniform. Many worlds may start the reaction and fail, retry over millions of years, or never reach the threshold at all. Earth's rapid appearance of life within the first few 100 million years of habitability makes it an outlier. The probability distribution across star systems favors failure in most cases, success in only a handful. The timing also interacts with planetary stability. Proto-life requires billions of years of consistent conditions to evolve from simple molecules to complex networks capable of metabolism, replication, and adaptation. Most planets undergo shifts in orbit, radiation exposure, or chemical composition that interrupt these processes. By contrast, Earth's early oceans, mineral-rich crust, and moderate climate allowed chemistry to proceed uninterrupted, providing the rare continuity that makes spontaneous life possible. In statistical terms, Earth's rapid success is a jackpot on a cosmic scale, a convergence of chemical opportunity, geological steadiness, and stellar moderation that few planets ever achieve. Laboratory experiments reinforce this perspective. Even under controlled conditions with optimal chemicals and energy sources, generating self-replicating systems remains extremely difficult. Natural environments add random disturbances, dilution, and energy fluctuations. The expected timelines for abiogenesis under such realistic conditions stretch into hundreds of millions of years, yet Earth achieved it swiftly. This discrepancy implies that the majority of habitable planets, even those in the Goldilocks zone, likely never pass the chemical threshold necessary for life. The rapid emergence of life here suggests that the great filter is not ahead in evolution or intelligence, but behind, in the simple act of turning molecules into self-replicating systems. Earth photosynthesis rarity. Oxygen did not emerge in abundance automatically. Photosynthesis is a chemical process so complex that it took billions of years to develop on Earth, and even then it worked in fits and starts. Capturing light and converting it into chemical energy requires a highly organized molecular machinery, precise pigment arrangements, and stable cellular structures. The pigments must absorb light at the right wavelengths. The electron transport chain must function without interruption, and energy must be stored and transferred without massive loss. Each step carries the risk of failure, and in a prebiotic world, failure is far more likely than success. Laboratory simulations show that producing oxygen efficiently from water splitting is extraordinarily difficult. Without the proper arrangement of enzymes, metal cofactors, and molecular scaffolds, the reactions stall, produce toxic byproducts, or reverse spontaneously. Early photosynthetic organisms struggled to maintain this balance in dynamic environments. Environmental factors amplified the challenge. Light intensity fluctuates with latitude, season, and atmospheric conditions. Oceans and shallow seas absorb or scatter light, reducing efficiency. Nutrients like phosphorus, iron, and nitrogen must be available in precise concentrations, yet they are easily sequestered by sedimentation or locked inside minerals. Too little iron and electron transport slows. Too little phosphorus and ATP production halts. The interplay between light, nutrients, and temperature forms a narrow range where photosynthesis can not only survive but generate oxygen at a level that changes the environment globally. Most planets, even those with water and sunlight, lack this balance. Either the light is too weak, the nutrients unavailable, or conditions fluctuate too wildly to allow sustained oxygen production. The chemical hurdles themselves are immense. Splitting water to release oxygen requires overcoming energy barriers that few molecular systems can handle naturally. Electrons must be extracted from water molecules, transferred along multiple carriers, and used to generate energy currency without destroying the cell in the process. Oxygen itself is reactive, prone to damaging proteins, lipids, and DNA. Early life needed protective mechanisms, antioxidants, and repair systems just to survive while producing oxygen. The inefficiency of the process is clear. For billions of years, oxygen accumulated only slowly, trapped by reaction with iron, sulfur, and volcanic gases, while surface oceans and sediments acted as massive oxygen sinks. Life had to produce orders of magnitude more oxygen than it needed just to start altering the atmosphere. Even minor disruptions could halt progress. Fluctuations in temperature, changes in ocean circulation, volcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts could destroy localized photosynthetic communities. On planets lacking stable environments, oxygen-producing systems never reach a scale capable of altering the atmosphere. This rarity is reflected in the timeline on Earth, where photosynthetic processes existed for hundreds of millions of years before oxygen started accumulating in the atmosphere. The chemistry is precise, the machinery delicate, and the environmental conditions narrow. Oxygen production requires not just life, but a specific form of life in a world capable of supporting its chemical and ecological demands. Earth's oxygenation was not a single, unstoppable event. The Great Oxidation Event occurred roughly 2.4 billion years ago, but it did not happen overnight. Oxygen-producing organisms had been present for hundreds of millions of years before the atmosphere reached detectable levels of oxygen. Early oxygen was trapped in oceans, reacting with iron and sulfur in sediments, creating banded iron formations that recorded the chemical struggle. For millions of years, oxygen production was effectively invisible at the planetary scale. Only when sinks became saturated could oxygen accumulate in the atmosphere. This slow build demonstrates that the transition is precarious. Minor shifts in environmental chemistry could stall or reverse progress entirely. Multiple near failures occurred during the oxygenation process. Changes in volcanic activity could release gases like hydrogen sulfide and methane, which reacted rapidly with free oxygen, delaying atmospheric accumulation. Shifts in tectonic activity could redistribute nutrients, starving photosynthetic communities and slowing oxygen production. Climate fluctuations, including ice ages, altered ocean circulation, nutrient availability, and sunlight penetration. Each factor threatened to neutralize oxygen gains, creating a scenario where oxygenation could stall for tens of millions of years or collapse entirely. Only the continued presence of stable, productive photosynthetic communities allowed the planet to eventually reach oxygen levels sufficient to support more complex life. The timing of oxygenation also depended on the rate at which biological and geological systems interacted. Photosynthetic microbes needed vast areas to produce oxygen. but oxygen sinks across oceans and sediments consumed much of it. Only when microbial populations expanded sufficiently and oxygen sinks became saturated, could free oxygen escape into the atmosphere. This process took hundreds of millions of years, a geological blink compared to the age of the planet, but an eternity in biological terms. It shows that oxygenation is not a guaranteed outcome for planets with photosynthetic life. Most worlds may host microbes that produce oxygen locally, only for it to vanish as it reacts with the environment. Earth benefited from a rare alignment of production, consumption, and geological buffering. The episodic nature of oxygen accumulation highlights the fragility of the process. Even after the initial rise, oxygen levels fluctuated for millions of years. Events like the Lomagundi excursion temporarily increased oxygen before it receded. Glaciations and continental shifts redistributed nutrients and altered ocean chemistry, showing that oxygenation is not a linear path, but a dynamic balance between life and the environment. Any planet lacking these stabilizing conditions might see photosynthesis emerge without ever producing enough free oxygen to support advanced ecosystems. Earth's oxygenation succeeded because the biological, chemical, and geological systems remained in an extraordinary balance for hundreds of millions of years. The distribution of continents, oceans, and volcanic regions is central to sustaining oxygen-producing life. Land masses expose nutrients like phosphorus, iron, and trace metals through erosion, delivering them to oceans where photosynthetic organisms can use them. Too few exposed land surfaces, and nutrient supply becomes limiting. Too much, and erosion might produce toxic sedimentation or destabilize ocean chemistry. Volcanic cycles replenish essential elements, release gases that interact with oxygen, and maintain ocean acidity within tolerable ranges. Without periodic volcanic activity, photosynthetic communities can stagnate or collapse, halting oxygen production for millions of years. Sunlight is another limiting factor. Photosynthetic organisms require consistent light, but the angle, intensity, and duration vary with latitude and season. Oceans absorb and scatter sunlight, so only certain depths allow sufficient energy to drive reactions. Shallow seas, continental shelves, and regions near upwelling currents provide ideal environments. Too deep and light does not penetrate, too turbid, and photosynthesis is inefficient. The arrangement of continents and oceans controls these conditions. Earth's distribution of land and water created large sunlit regions with nutrient flow and stable temperatures, enabling photosynthetic life to scale up from local communities to planetary impact. These factors must coincide with stable environmental conditions. Fluctuating volcanism, irregular continental exposure, or highly variable sunlight can prevent oxygen from accumulating. On many planets, landmass configuration changes too slowly or too quickly. Volcanoes are either too active or too dormant, and sunlight is insufficient for large-scale photosynthesis. Only a narrow set of combinations allows oxygen-producing life to grow, persist, and alter the atmosphere over geological timescales. This requirement adds another filter, reducing the number of planets capable of supporting complex aerobic ecosystems, even if life exists in simpler forms. The chemical and geological synergy is critical. Nutrients must flow at rates that sustain productivity without oversaturating oceans. Volcanic gases must buffer atmospheric chemistry without poisoning microbial communities. And sunlight must penetrate oceans in ways that maximize energy capture. Each factor alone is insufficient. All must work together. Early Earth achieved this rare alignment, allowing oxygen to build slowly, overcome environmental sinks, and eventually support higher life forms. Most planets, even if they host photosynthetic microbes, may never reach the scale needed to produce an oxygen-rich atmosphere. The interplay between land, volcanism, and sunlight shapes not only the production of oxygen, but the potential for complexity itself, defining the narrow window where aerobic life can thrive. Prokaryotes to eukaryotes. Life on Earth existed for more than 1 billion years as simple prokaryotic cells. These were tiny, self-contained chemical factories capable of metabolism, replication, and adaptation, but limited in complexity. Their simplicity restricted them to small sizes, slow innovation, and local specialization. The jump to eukaryotes required a profound structural and biochemical transformation. Eukaryotic cells have nuclei, organelles, cytoskeletons, and internal compartments that allow specialization, division of labor, and larger size. Each feature required multiple coordinated mutations, rearrangements, and chemical innovations. Eukaryotes did not appear gradually in a simple linear path. The fossil record shows a sudden emergence, suggesting that the underlying processes are rare and difficult to reproduce. The energy demands of eukaryotic life are immense. A cell with internal compartments consumes far more energy than a prokaryote. Without a reliable source of energy, these structures cannot be maintained. Eukaryotic metabolism relies on compartmentalization to manage chemical reactions efficiently, reducing waste and maximizing ATP production. Any imbalance in energy supply leads to failure. Organelles collapse, DNA replication errors increase, and cells die before reproducing. This constraint alone explains why eukaryotic cells did not evolve sooner. The right energy availability depends on environmental conditions, the presence of oxygen, and the accumulation of metabolic innovations over long timescales. The chemical and environmental thresholds needed to support eukaryotes are far more restrictive than for prokaryotes, making the leap statistically improbable across the galaxy. Another factor is cellular complexity itself. Larger cells must manage internal transport, DNA protection, protein sorting, and membrane integrity. Any one of these systems failing can prevent survival. Mutations that improve one function can harm another, creating evolutionary trade-offs. Over hundreds of millions of years, only rare lineages found solutions that work together, producing stable, replicating eukaryotic cells. The timing on Earth, over 1 billion years after the first prokaryotes, reflects the extraordinary difficulty of assembling a cell capable of sustaining complexity without catastrophic failure. This long delay suggests that in most worlds with life, prokaryotic-type life may dominate for billions of years, with eukaryotes being exceptional. One of the defining moments in the evolution of complex life is the mitochondrial merger, where a single prokaryotic cell entered another, forming a symbiotic relationship. This event produced mitochondria, the energy powerhouses of eukaryotic cells, enabling a massive increase in energy output. With mitochondria, cells could maintain larger genomes, build more organelles, support complex signaling networks, and eventually specialize into tissues. Without this merger, the energy requirements for complex life would be unreachable. The odds of such an event occurring are extremely low. Two distinct species, each with their own survival strategies, must meet, survive engulfment, and establish a mutually beneficial relationship. Most engulfment events result in digestion, failure, or conflict. The successful merger on Earth appears to be a one-time evolutionary leap that cannot easily repeat. Mitochondrial integration also required genetic rewiring. Genes from the engulfed organism were transferred to the host genome, producing coordinated control over energy production and cellular maintenance. This process demands precise compatibility between protein structures, replication machinery, and cellular signaling. Any mismatch could destabilize the system, killing both partners. The stability of mitochondria over billions of years suggests that Earth's cells overcame hurdles that would eliminate similar attempts on most other planets. Laboratory and computational studies indicate that the biochemical requirements for mitochondrial success are narrow, making this event highly improbable on a statistical basis. The implications of this merger extend to all complex life that followed. Every multicellular organism depends on the energy advantage mitochondria provide. Without it, the evolution of large differentiated cells, tissues, and organs is unlikely. The emergence of eukaryotes capable of harboring mitochondria is rare enough, but the probability of a successful merger occurring and persisting long-term may be unique in our galaxy. While many worlds could harbor microbial life, the leap to energy-rich eukaryotic cells appears to be a filter few worlds cross. Earth's early eukaryotes benefited from the rare combination of chemical compatibility, environmental stability, and a chance encounter that produced mitochondria, setting the stage for all future complexity. Multicellularity constraints. After eukaryotes appeared, the next barrier was multicellularity. Cells had to evolve cooperation, communication, and specialization while avoiding internal conflict. Multicellularity dramatically increases energy demand. Each cell no longer supports itself alone. It relies on coordinated systems for nutrient distribution, waste removal, and defense. Oxygen becomes critical. Without sufficient oxygen levels to fuel mitochondria, multicellular organisms cannot sustain large bodies. Early Earth faced challenges in maintaining atmospheric oxygen at thresholds necessary to support complex organisms. Fluctuations in oxygen could halt development or lead to mass die-offs before multicellularity could stabilize. Stable climate cycles are also essential. Multicellular life requires consistent energy inputs over long timescales. Extreme environmental disruptions, repeated glaciations, or sterilizing events can destroy early multicellular colonies before they evolve structures like tissues or organs. Earth's combination of geological stability, moderate temperature swings, and nutrient cycling allowed multicellular life to emerge slowly but steadily. This balance between energy availability, atmospheric conditions, and climate stability creates a narrow window where multicellularity is viable. Planets lacking one or more of these conditions may see eukaryotes, but never develop complex structures or large bodies. Constraints extend to reproduction and development. Multicellular organisms require mechanisms to maintain genetic fidelity across cell generations, regulate differentiation, and prevent uncontrolled growth. Early experiments in evolution suggest that these systems fail often. Without careful integration of signaling pathways, cell adhesion, and energy management, colonies break apart or die. On Earth, these innovations evolved gradually, interacting with oxygen levels, nutrient availability, and environmental consistency. The requirement for multiple rare factors to align demonstrates why multicellularity, while not impossible, is highly improbable elsewhere. Many worlds could have eukaryotic microbes, but the leap to cooperative, differentiated lifeforms appears exceptional. The energy advantage provided by mitochondria is central to overcoming these constraints. Large multicellular organisms need efficient ATP production to maintain cell function, communication, and repair mechanisms. Any planet where oxygen is insufficient, energy supply is inconsistent, or environmental cycles are too harsh, would see multicellularity stall. The emergence of tissues, organs, and eventually intelligent life depends on a cascade of rare events. Eukaryotic cells must exist, mitochondria must function properly, oxygen must reach critical levels, and the environment must remain stable long enough to support gradual complexity. Earth satisfies all these conditions, but the odds suggest most planets never do. The leap to complex life is not a given. It is a narrow path shaped by energy, chemistry, and environmental endurance over billions of years. Gamma-ray bursts are cosmic flashbulbs of death, capable of sterilizing life across thousands of light-years. These bursts originate from the collapse of massive stars or merging neutron stars, releasing more energy in seconds than the Sun emits in its entire lifetime. If a burst is aimed at a planet, its atmosphere can be stripped or chemically altered, radiation can penetrate to the surface, and DNA in organisms is bombarded with ionizing energy. The immediate effect is catastrophic. Cellular structures break down, mutations soar, and entire biospheres can collapse in a geological instant. The frequency of gamma-ray bursts in the universe is low but non-negligible. Early galaxies, rich in massive stars, produced these bursts more frequently, making life rare in young systems. Even in the Milky Way, Earth exists in a region that is fortunate. A gamma-ray burst pointed at our planet in the past few 100 million years could have reset biological evolution completely. Gamma-ray bursts also create secondary problems. They generate high-energy particles that interact with the atmosphere, producing nitrogen oxides that destroy ozone layers. Without ozone, ultraviolet radiation from the sun reaches the surface with lethal intensity. Oceans may absorb some radiation, but shallow marine ecosystems are highly vulnerable. Plant life, which depends on light yet is sensitive to UV, suffers heavily. The timing of a burst matters. Even a planet with advanced life can be reset if it occurs during a critical evolutionary stage. Earth narrowly avoided such events at times when complex life was emerging, and any direct hit could have sterilized large portions of the planet, preventing intelligence from ever arising. The alignment of our location in the galaxy with the relative scarcity of nearby massive stars is essential. Regions densely packed with massive stars are high-risk zones. Observations of the Milky Way show that gamma-ray burst frequency decreases with distance from the galactic core, but not linearly. Early in the galaxy's history, bursts were more common due to higher star formation rates. Life on planets forming in this era faces a brutal filter. Even if chemistry produces life and energy supports complexity, a single nearby burst could erase it entirely. Earth's survival reflects a narrow set of spatial and temporal conditions. Avoiding sterilization long enough for prokaryotes to evolve, eukaryotes to appear, and multicellular life to stabilize over billions of years. Supernovae, the explosions of massive stars, are more frequent than gamma-ray bursts and pose a slightly different risk. While their radiation is less concentrated, supernovae release intense cosmic rays, gamma rays, and shock waves that can reach nearby planetary systems. Planets within a few dozen light-years of a supernova experience ozone depletion, radiation spikes, and atmospheric chemistry disruption. For complex life, this is devastating. DNA mutations surge, ecosystems collapse, and climate shifts can occur if supernova material alters cloud formation or solar input. Early Earth likely experienced multiple supernova events within dangerous proximity, yet life survived, suggesting an extraordinary stroke of timing and location. The danger is compounded by the frequency of massive stars in certain regions of the galaxy. Spiral arms, where star formation is active, contain clusters of young, massive stars destined to go supernova. Planets orbiting in these regions repeatedly face radiation spikes, leaving little chance for life to advance. Even after initial life emerges, repeated supernova events can stall evolution, wipe out early multicellular organisms, or force adaptations that favor survival over complexity. Earth's orbit keeps it mostly between spiral arms, providing a stable environment where life could persist without constant catastrophic resets. A small shift in galactic trajectory or star formation history could have left our planet exposed to lethal supernova radiation too often for intelligence to evolve. Supernovae also affect planetary chemistry. Ejecta from explosions spread heavy elements, some essential for life, but too close, and these materials bombard planets violently. Radiation alters atmospheric gases, changes ozone chemistry, and increases mutation rates. While distant supernovae seed galaxies with metals, nearby explosions act as filters, sterilizing systems, or creating mass extinctions. Earth experienced extinction-level events that may correlate with supernova activity, including massive die-offs that reshaped ecosystems without permanently halting life. These events illustrate that proximity, frequency, and timing of supernova define a critical filter most worlds cannot bypass. Galactic habitable zones. Not every region in a galaxy is equally hospitable to life. The concept of galactic habitable zones defines areas where conditions favor stability and low sterilization risk. Toward the galactic center, stellar density is high, radiation is intense, and gamma-ray bursts and supernovae are more frequent. Planetary systems here face repeated sterilization threats, making long-term biological evolution extremely unlikely. Toward the outer edges, metallicity decreases, reducing the availability of heavy elements required to form rocky planets, generate complex chemistry, and build technological resources. Too little iron, phosphorus, and other critical metals and planets are sterile or lack energy-efficient environments for life to scale up. Earth lies in a rare sweet spot, far enough from the center to avoid frequent catastrophic radiation, but close enough to benefit from sufficient metallicity. This position reduces the likelihood of sterilizing events while ensuring planetary formation materials are abundant. Within this galactic habitable zone, the balance between radiation safety and chemical richness is critical. Observations of exoplanetary systems show many planets forming outside this range, where either radiation or scarcity of metals prevents sustained life. Even in zones with appropriate elements, random catastrophic events can nullify habitability. Earth's location allowed long periods without sterilizing events, giving complex life the time required to evolve energy-rich eukaryotes, multicellular organisms, and intelligence. The history of Earth suggests near misses that underscore the fragility of this window. Multiple extinction-level events, likely influenced by cosmic impacts, supernova radiation, or climate perturbations, occurred without permanently halting evolution. These events reset ecosystems, delayed complexity, and eliminated fragile lineages. On many planets, a similar filter would permanently prevent intelligent life from arising. Only a rare alignment of spatial positioning, timing, and frequency of catastrophic events permits a planet to survive long enough to support complex life. Earth narrowly avoided conditions that would have halted intelligence for billions of years, exemplifying how few worlds cross this filter successfully. Intelligence is often assumed to be an inevitable outcome of evolution, but Earth's history shows this is far from true. For more than 3 billion years, life existed without developing large brains, complex behaviors, or conscious reasoning. Prokaryotes dominated for the majority of the planet's history, and even after eukaryotes appeared, single-celled organisms remained overwhelmingly abundant. Multicellular life took hundreds of millions of years to develop, and complex animals only emerged after the Cambrian explosion, roughly 540 million years ago. Even then, intelligence was not guaranteed. Most lineages maintained simple body plans, survival strategies, and sensory mechanisms. The vast majority of species that evolved were optimized for reproduction, energy efficiency, and environmental exploitation, not problem-solving or cognitive expansion. The fossil record emphasizes the dominance of simplicity. Trilobites, sponges, jellyfish, and many arthropods occupied ecological niches for hundreds of millions of years without significant cognitive advancement. Predation, competition, and adaptation often favored speed, resilience, and reproduction over planning or foresight. The nervous systems of early animals were small, minimal, and efficient, designed to respond to immediate threats rather than process abstract information. Large brains require enormous energy. For most species, investing in more neurons and complex circuitry would be disadvantageous compared to investing in rapid reproduction, armor, or mobility. The Earth's evolutionary history illustrates that intelligence is a rare adaptive strategy, not a universal endpoint. Even among vertebrates, brain size correlates poorly with survival outside specific conditions. Fish, amphibians, reptiles, and early mammals evolved sophisticated sensory systems and behaviors without developing intelligence approaching human levels. Environments with predictable resources, low predation, or stable niches reduce selection pressure for innovation. Intelligence carries costs, longer developmental periods, increased caloric demands, slower reproduction, and vulnerability during youth. Across Earth's timeline, most species thrived without cognitive expansion. Evolution on other worlds could produce a similar pattern: abundant life without brains capable of technology, strategy, or abstraction. Intelligence is not a default. It is a rare response to very particular pressures, requiring more than mere survival. Accidental favoring of big brains. When intelligence finally appeared in certain primate lineages, it was a product of accidental ecological pressures rather than inevitable design. Early primates evolved in complex, variable habitats where food sources, social structures, and predators created challenges that favored flexible thinking. Forested environments with dispersed fruit and nuts required planning, memory, and manipulation of tools. Social competition rewarded individuals who could track hierarchies, predict rival behavior, and cooperate strategically. These selective pressures were contingent. Small changes in environment, predator density, or resource distribution could have favored entirely different traits. In many ecosystems, cooperation or cunning is unnecessary. Physical adaptations alone ensure survival. Intelligence only becomes advantageous under circumstances where problem-solving increases reproductive success beyond simpler strategies. Brain expansion is energetically expensive. Large brains consume a significant portion of the body's energy budget. For humans, roughly 20% of energy at rest goes to the brain. Evolution only favors this investment when the payoff outweighs the cost. Accidental shifts in environment, climate variability, resource scarcity, complex social networks created that payoff for primates. In alternative ecosystems, intelligence could have been irrelevant or even maladaptive. Predatory animals, for example, rely on speed, strength, or ambush tactics. Herbivores often survive by numbers, speed, or camouflage rather than planning or tool use. Across Earth's history, these conditions are vastly more common than the narrow ecological niche that allowed primates to develop big brains. The emergence of intelligence is therefore a statistical anomaly, not a predictable outcome of evolutionary pressures. The uniqueness of the primate lineage also played a role. Bipedalism freed hands for tool use, manual manipulation, and cultural transmission. Opposable thumbs allowed individuals to modify environments, craft shelters, and use objects to access food. Social structures amplified cognitive demands, creating feedback loops that further favored brain growth. These factors were not universal. Most multicellular lineages lacked the combination of limb dexterity, social complexity, and environmental pressure that primates experienced. On planets with life, evolutionary pathways could easily favor large, adaptable organisms that remain simple in cognition. Earth's primate lineage is a rare convergence of accidental traits and selective pressures, producing intelligence that other lineages, both past and present, never approached. Earth's climate oscillations over millions of years shaped the expansion of intelligence. Ice ages, droughts, fluctuating sea levels, and shifts in forest distribution created pressures that required adaptability, foresight, and innovation. Species faced unpredictable challenges that could not be solved through instinct alone. The ability to store food, plan migrations, communicate complex information, and manipulate environments became crucial for survival. These oscillations were not moderate. Glaciations reshaped continents, altered habitats, and periodically threatened extinction. Life that could anticipate, adapt, and innovate gained a disproportionate survival advantage. Intelligence emerged as a tool to navigate an unstable world, a product of necessity under environmental chaos rather than a natural trajectory. These oscillations also affected social structures, creating selective pressures that amplified cognitive growth. Groups that could cooperate, communicate, and share strategies survived better during environmental stress. Tool use and cultural learning allowed knowledge to accumulate across generations, compounding the advantage of intelligence. Without recurring climate challenges, such pressures would be absent. Many species on Earth thrived for millions of years in stable, predictable environments without evolving significant cognitive abilities. The specific timing and magnitude of Earth's climate variability were instrumental in shaping human-level intelligence. Planets with stable climates, consistent resources, or slow environmental change may see life reach complex multicellularity without ever producing high cognition. The oscillations also created bottlenecks, concentrating populations and intensifying competition. Limited resources during ice ages forced organisms to innovate or perish. Those capable of foresight, planning, and social coordination survived and passed on their genes. Populations in stable, resource-rich regions did not face these pressures and showed no comparable drive toward cognitive expansion. The repeated cycles of environmental stress, recovery, and adaptation established a pattern where intelligence was selectively advantageous, but only under these precise conditions. Most worlds, lacking such extreme oscillations, might host life capable of survival, but not of invention, problem-solving, or abstract thought. Earth's climate history illustrates that intelligence is contingent on rare environmental dynamics, not an evolutionary certainty. The feedback between environmental unpredictability and cultural transmission further amplified brain growth. Early humans developed the ability to learn from experience, communicate knowledge, and innovate strategies to survive changing conditions. Each generation could build on the solutions of the previous one, producing cumulative advancement. Such feedback loops are delicate, requiring social cooperation, memory, and learning capacity. Without environmental stress to drive selection and population pressures to favor social learning, these loops may never emerge. On most worlds, life could remain biologically successful but cognitively stagnant. Intelligence requires rare ecological accidents, repeated environmental challenges, and a lineage capable of exploiting those pressures, all aligned over millions of years. Earth's humans are the product of this precise and improbable confluence. Intelligence alone does not create technology. Across Earth's history, many species developed problem-solving abilities, memory, and even social complexity without ever producing tools beyond sticks and rocks. Dolphins, crows, elephants, octopuses, and primates display remarkable intelligence, yet their physical structure limits what they can manipulate. Hands capable of precision grip, thumb opposition, and fine motor control are rare. Even among primates, only a few lineages evolve true dexterity. This restricts the ability to craft complex tools, shape materials, or engage in tasks that accumulate into technological progress. Manipulation is a bottleneck. Without it, intelligence cannot scale into technology. Cognitive breakthroughs alone cannot bypass anatomical constraints. The evolution of hands capable of manipulation depends on multiple factors. Limb structure, joint flexibility, musculature, and skeletal support must align to allow repeated, precise movements. Fingers must bend independently, thumbs must oppose, and the wrist must rotate without destabilizing the arm. Achieving this combination is rare. Most vertebrates rely on claws, hooves, or fins, which are highly functional for survival but unsuitable for controlled crafting. Even within the primate order, only hominins evolved hands capable of the repeated fine manipulation required for manufacturing tools that advance over generations. Evolution often favors speed, strength, or endurance over fine motor ability. On most worlds, intelligent life may face a similar anatomical ceiling, preventing the leap from awareness to tool use at a transformative scale. Manipulation interacts with cognition in subtle ways. The brain must coordinate vision, motor control, and feedback from touch. Without precise sensory input, even capable hands cannot operate effectively. Early humans relied on highly developed neural circuits to integrate these systems, allowing incremental improvement of tools across generations. Simple observations, trial and error learning, and imitation enabled slow refinement into axes, blades, and eventually more sophisticated constructions. Without hands capable of repeated, controlled movements, this feedback loop is impossible. Most intelligent species are constrained by their anatomy. Large-brained birds, marine mammals, and other primates may innovate within limits, but cannot create cumulative technology. Physical structure narrows the path to civilization far more than intelligence alone, making Earth's trajectory extraordinarily rare. The perfect alignment. Earth's technological species arose from an improbable set of circumstances. Bipedalism freed hands, allowing hominins to use limbs not for locomotion but for manipulation, crafting, carrying, and signaling. The shift to walking upright reduced energy costs for locomotion, increased visibility across landscapes, and liberated hands for precision tasks. Combined with brain size expansion, this anatomical change created the potential for cumulative technological development. But anatomy alone was insufficient. Social structures had to support cooperation, knowledge transmission, and shared goals. Small groups capable of communicating ideas, coordinating hunting, or teaching tool use became a prerequisite for advancing technology. Communication, combined with manipulation and cognitive capacity, created a unique triad enabling innovation. Control of fire further expanded the possibilities. Fire is not instinctive. It must be discovered, maintained, and understood. Fire provides warmth, protection, and cooking, allowing increased energy extraction from food, which supports larger brains. Fire also enables material transformation, from hardening clay to softening wood, expanding the potential for tool creation. The accidental discovery of fire is one of countless bottlenecks in the path to technology. A species may have hands, intelligence, and social structures, yet without mastering fire, tool-making remains limited. Earth's technological trajectory depends on both biological capacity and rare environmental events. Access to fuel, natural lighting, and climate conditions suitable for maintaining controlled fire were all critical. Most planets, even with intelligent life, may never experience this precise alignment. Abundant resources reinforced these advantages. Stable food supply, fertile landscapes, and moderate climate allowed extended learning periods, longer lifespans, and energy-intensive brain growth. Scarce resources or extreme conditions favor survival over exploration or tool refinement. Early humans benefited from periods of abundance, enabling experimentation and trial-and-error learning without immediate fatal consequences. The synergy of free hands, bipedal locomotion, fire, brain size, and supportive social structures created a narrow corridor where technology could emerge and accumulate. The Earth scenario is unlikely to repeat elsewhere. Other intelligent species may excel in problem-solving or social coordination, yet remain physically or environmentally constrained, preventing the cascade into civilization. Technological evolution depends on critical breakthroughs that cannot be guaranteed. Controlled fire allowed cooking, metallurgy, and environmental modification. Smelting metals requires access to mineral deposits, combustion methods, and iterative experimentation. Without appropriate geology, a species may never progress beyond stone tools. Even minor geological differences, absence of copper, tin, or iron ores, can halt technological development despite intelligence and manipulation. These breakthroughs rely on chance and local conditions, not cognitive inevitability. Many species could reach agriculture, tool refinement, or simple construction, yet remain trapped without access to transformative materials. Planetary geology, climate stability, and elemental abundance define thresholds for technological progress. Metallurgy illustrates the challenge. Ore must be concentrated, reachable, and smeltable. Heat must reach temperatures sufficient to extract metals, requiring mastery of combustion, containment, and airflow. Each step is non-trivial. Repeated trial and error over generations is required, often without immediate payoff. Cultures that fail to maintain knowledge or replicate processes stagnate. Early humans faced centuries of experimentation before producing bronze or iron tools. Across the galaxy, similar evolutionary bottlenecks could prevent most intelligent species from progressing beyond basic tools, even if their anatomy, cognition, and social structures permit innovation. Critical breakthroughs are rarely coincident with evolution itself. They depend on planetary luck, not destiny. Fire, metallurgy, and energy harnessing are not isolated. They depend on ecological stability, material availability, and social structures that support learning and teaching. Agriculture, writing, and construction each require prior breakthroughs in energy control and environmental manipulation. A planet may host intelligent species capable of reasoning, but fail at technological scaling due to resource scarcity or environmental disruption. Ice ages, volcanic activity, or resource depletion can halt experimentation, erasing accumulated knowledge. Earth benefited from an extraordinary alignment of geology, ecology, and social innovation. allowing tools to evolve from simple stones to sophisticated technology. Most worlds, even with intelligence and manipulation, encounter bottlenecks too severe to pass, preventing the emergence of a technological civilization. Technology accumulates slowly and depends on iteration. Each tool enables the next, building complexity over generations. Learning from mistakes, sharing methods, and cultural transmission are essential. Populations that are too small, isolated, or frequently disrupted cannot maintain this chain. Even minor demographic setbacks can erase centuries of progress. Earth's species survived long enough under stable conditions to preserve and refine innovations. Fire allowed cooking, metallurgy enabled weapons and shelters, and social coordination amplified knowledge. Without all these factors, a species may display remarkable intelligence, manipulate objects, and solve complex problems, yet remain technologically stagnant. The path from intelligence to civilization is narrow, fragile, and contingent on dozens of rare alignments across anatomy, ecology, energy, and geology. The techno-signature desert. For over 40 years, humans have turned radio telescopes skyward, listening for signals from civilizations elsewhere, and the results have been nothing but silence. SETI, breakthrough. Listen and FAST have surveyed thousands of nearby stars, scanning billions of frequencies, seeking repeating patterns, narrowband signals, or transmissions that suggest deliberate communication. Every survey finds only natural noise, pulsars, quasars, stellar flares, and random cosmic radiation. The Milky Way is unexpectedly quiet. The lack of signals is not due to insufficient effort or technology. Modern instruments are sensitive enough to detect transmissions comparable to or slightly stronger than Earth's own powerful broadcasts across tens of light years. Every gap in the sky, every quiet star system, every empty frequency band reinforces the reality that no one is shouting in a way that reaches us. This silence persists even as the search expands, cataloging exoplanets and targeting promising systems that could host habitable worlds. Humans expected signals by now because the logic seemed sound. The galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, many with planets in habitable zones. If even a fraction of those planets host life, and an even smaller fraction develop intelligence and technology, some should be sending detectable signals. Civilizations capable of radio communication, microwaves, or other high-powered transmissions should, in theory, have left a footprint. Yet no pattern, no encoded transmission, no beacon has emerged. Surveys span decades, covering nearby stars and distant clusters, yet the sky remains eerily clean. Instruments sweep thousands of targets with repeat observations, yet each measurement confirms the absence of artificial radio energy. It is not a failure of detection, it is a clear message from the cosmos. The universe does not seem to host civilizations reaching across the stars in any detectable form. The silence is consistent across methodologies. Narrowband searches, designed to detect deliberate signals, produce nothing but background noise. Wideband surveys, which could capture broad, energy-intensive emissions, also return empty. The search for transient signals, flashes that could indicate pulsed communication or rapid scanning, shows only natural cosmic events. Even targeted surveys at promising exoplanets, especially Earth-like planets around Sun-like stars, reveal no artificial interference. Every detection attempt reinforces the notion that we are alone, or, at the very least, that technologically advanced civilizations are exceptionally rare, fleeting, or deliberately quiet. Beyond radio waves, astronomers have searched for the cosmic footprints of civilizations at an even grander scale. Dyson spheres, colossal structures designed to capture the energy output of stars, would emit infrared radiation as waste heat. Large-scale engineering projects, city-sized orbital habitats, or star-encompassing solar collectors would leave detectable signatures across the galaxy. Infrared surveys using IRIS, WISE, and Spitzer telescopes have scanned millions of stars for excess infrared emission that could indicate such structures. Again, nothing appears. The data shows a Milky Way largely devoid of megastructures, without the telltale glow of civilizations harvesting stellar energy. Any civilization advanced enough to undertake projects on this scale would likely leave markers visible across thousands of light years. The absence of such markers reinforces a consistent pattern. Large-scale cosmic engineering is either exceedingly rare, transient, or absent. The search for techno signatures goes beyond stellar manipulation. Planetary surfaces, moons and asteroid belts have been scanned for unnatural changes, unusual reflectivity, or artificial objects that could hint at technological activity. Observations in optical, infrared, and radio bands consistently show natural processes dominating every system. Cosmic structures that would indicate mining, orbital construction, or large-scale energy collection do not appear in surveys of nearby stars or even distant clusters. Even civilizations limited to localized planetary engineering would eventually produce detectable energy waste, yet the Milky Way remains quiet. The absence of megastructures aligns with the radio silence, revealing that either civilizations capable of large-scale energy manipulation are exceptionally rare, or they vanish before leaving observable evidence. Infrared and optical surveys also account for natural noise. Stars with unusual spectral features, high dust temperatures, or unexpected radiation profiles are examined rigorously to rule out natural explanations. In every case, anomalies are explained by standard astrophysical processes, dust clouds, stellar evolution, and black hole activity. Nothing conclusively points to engineering on cosmic scales. These findings suggest that even if life is common, civilizations capable of building or sustaining megastructures do not persist long enough to become detectable. The universe appears devoid of advanced engineering, and our instruments, sensitive to energy outputs, orders of magnitude higher than humanity can currently produce, reveal no exceptions. The clean, unpolluted radio spectrum of the Milky Way. The Milky Way's radio spectrum is unusually clean. Frequencies that could host transmissions for tens of thousands of years show only natural sources. Pulsars ticking like clocks, quasars flashing intermittently, and the steady hiss of cosmic background radiation. In principle, a civilization attempting interstellar communication or broadcasting energy would leave a footprint. Yet our surveys reveal a striking absence. The quiet sky implies either civilizations are rare, communication is brief and transient, or intelligent life avoids broadcasting at detectable levels. Even Earth's own leakage, television, radar, and military transmissions would have been detectable by nearby civilizations if similar technologies existed elsewhere. The lack of comparable signatures suggests civilizations either self-limit, die out before reaching detectable technological levels, or never arise. Radio silence aligns with other evidence. No artificial light is detected beyond our own solar system. Planetary surfaces lack unusual reflectivity patterns that would indicate urbanization or large-scale energy consumption. Stellar spectra show no anomalies consistent with energy harvesting or artificial manipulation. The galaxy, examined across decades of observation, exhibits the characteristics of a largely untouched, naturally evolving environment. Even in regions with habitable planets, including nearby sun-like stars and known exoplanetary systems, the radio sky remains unpolluted. For a galaxy potentially teeming with life, this absence is stark and unexpected. The clean spectrum also imposes constraints on how civilizations might behave. Broadcasting energy signals into space is detectable over vast distances, yet the galaxy shows none. Energy-intensive technologies, if widespread, would create measurable waste heat. Megastructures, if built, would radiate infrared excess. The absence of both suggests that either civilizations are extremely rare, highly transient, or deliberately minimize their energetic footprint. Across millions of surveyed stars, the Milky Way appears devoid of evidence for persistent technological species. Humanity's expectation of neighbors turns out to be a projection. The universe is quieter, emptier, and more technologically barren than early optimism suggested. Observations from FAST, Breakthrough Listen, and other cutting-edge surveys continue to expand coverage and sensitivity. Yet the pattern holds. Local stars, nearby exoplanets, and distant stellar clusters yield only natural signals. The galaxy, when viewed across the spectrum, is clean in a way that defies simple explanation. Even within regions abundant in planets, metallicity, and potential habitable zones, no signs of engineered radio transmissions, energy harnessing, or megastructures appear. This silence, persistent across time, frequency, and method, creates a desert of techno-signatures, revealing that the emergence of detectable civilizations is an extraordinarily narrow and improbable path. Every null result reinforces the narrowness of this window. Civilizations may arise, but surviving long enough to generate detectable energy signatures or maintain large-scale technology may be rare. Environmental hazards, biological filters, catastrophic events, and internal limitations likely reduce the fraction of civilizations that can reach a detectable level. The galaxy, observed at multiple wavelengths and scales, appears largely unmarked by technological activity. Humanity, sending signals outward, may exist in the first instance of detectable technology within its local neighborhood. The desert of techno-signatures shows that even intelligent life capable of tool use and culture may never produce the energy-intensive or communicative footprints required to be noticed. Exoplanet missions and their unexpected results. Kepler and TESS revolutionized our understanding of planets beyond the solar system, revealing that small rocky worlds are common across the galaxy. Thousands of exoplanets were identified, orbiting stars of all types, from Sun-like G-dwarfs to red dwarfs and massive F-type stars. At first glance, this suggested that Earth-sized planets were abundant and, by extension, that the universe might teem with habitable worlds. Yet the initial optimism faced early constraints as we studied the detailed properties of these planets. Size alone is insufficient. Planets in the habitable zone often orbit volatile stars with strong flares, tidal locking, or unstable magnetic activity. Many Earth-sized planets are exposed to levels of radiation that would sterilize any surface life. Even worlds within temperate orbital distances may experience gravitational tides that disrupt climate stability, preventing the long-term environmental consistency required for life to take hold. Atmospheric composition, revealed through transit spectroscopy and absorption measurements, often shows planets are far from Earth-like. Kepler candidates with similar radii and orbital periods as Earth frequently have dense carbon dioxide atmospheres, runaway greenhouse conditions, or high levels of toxic gases such as hydrogen sulfide. The presence of heavy volatile envelopes, or planets classified as sub-Neptunes, shows that planetary formation produces a wide diversity of worlds, many of which cannot support the complex chemistry life requires. Even when a planet receives Earth-like stellar energy, factors such as greenhouse amplification, atmospheric loss, and chemical instability can render it uninhabitable. Habitability is not a matter of size or orbit alone. It is an intricate balance of atmosphere, radiation, composition, and geology. And the exoplanet record shows this balance is rare. Stellar type compounds the challenge. Red dwarfs, the most common stars in the galaxy, have habitable zones extremely close to their surfaces. Planets in these zones are often tidally locked, presenting one face to the star permanently while the other remains dark. This produces extreme temperature gradients, severe weather patterns, and high radiation exposure from stellar flares. Even if surface water exists, it may freeze on the night side or evaporate entirely on the day side. Kepler and TESS reveal that such planets dominate the population of Earth-sized worlds in habitable zones. Sun-like stars, while more benign, are less common, and their planetary systems often display high eccentricity or orbital instability, making long-term climate stability a rare outcome. The universe produces countless planets, but the number capable of sustaining life as we know it dwindles drastically when detailed conditions are considered. JWST provided a further shock, revealing that several habitable zone planets may have already lost their atmospheres entirely. Worlds previously thought promising, orbiting nearby red dwarfs or sun-like stars, show no detectable atmospheric retention. Stellar radiation, particle winds, and early violent activity strip gases from small planets, leaving barren surfaces with no potential for liquid water. Planets with thin atmospheres may retain some pressure, but the chemistry is often hostile, too acidic, too oxidizing, or dominated by elements incompatible with stable life. JWST spectroscopy allows researchers to detect these signatures, proving that proximity to the habitable zone does not guarantee habitability. Atmosphere retention depends on mass, magnetic field, geological activity, and stellar history. Many exoplanets fall short in one or more categories. Low-mass planets lose lighter gases first, while strong stellar winds erode even denser envelopes over millions or billions of years. Magnetic fields, generated by molten cores and rapid rotation, can protect atmospheres, but these features are uncommon in the observed exoplanet population. Plate tectonics, which recycle carbon and stabilize climate, are uncertain or absent on many rocky planets. The implication is that habitable surfaces, where liquid water can persist long enough for life to emerge, may be exceedingly rare. Observations challenge the initial assumption that the habitable zone is sufficient. It is a necessary condition, but far from a guarantee. Planetary system architecture also affects habitability. Gravitational interactions among planets can destabilize orbits, increase eccentricity, and create long-term climate instability. Giant planets, while sometimes shielding inner planets from impacts, can also induce chaotic dynamics that reduce stability. TESS and Kepler data reveal that multi-planet systems often display resonances and migrations that disrupt inner habitable zones. These findings demand revisions to the Drake equation, which traditionally assumed that the presence of Earth-sized planets in habitable zones is a reliable proxy for habitability. Observations now suggest that even when planets exist in the right location, additional filters like atmosphere retention, chemical stability, and orbital consistency drastically narrow the number of worlds where life could persist. Rethinking life-friendly worlds. The lessons from exoplanet missions force a re-evaluation of how common truly life-friendly worlds are. Earth-sized planets are everywhere, but Earth-like conditions are exceptional. Heat extremes, volatile atmospheres, radiation, tidal locking, and runaway greenhouse effects remove many planets from consideration. JWST's results show that even planets within the habitable zone can be stripped bare or chemically hostile. Observers must consider geological, atmospheric, and stellar context to determine potential for life, not merely size or orbit. Kepler and TESS also reveal that habitable zones are not static. Stellar evolution changes luminosity over time, shifting the temperate region outward. A planet may spend millions or billions of years outside optimal conditions before moving into the habitable zone or being rendered uninhabitable by radiation. This dynamic further constrains opportunities for life to emerge and persist. Planetary instability is widespread. Planets collide, migrate, or are ejected. Long-term habitability is the exception, not the rule. Exoplanet surveys provide direct evidence that Earth's combination of size, atmosphere, orbital stability, and stellar conditions is extraordinarily rare. Atmospheric studies reveal chemical hazards beyond heat or radiation. Planets in habitable zones may possess supercritical carbon dioxide atmospheres, toxic hydrogen compounds, or high-pressure layers preventing liquid water. Even modest deviations from Earth's pressure, temperature, or chemistry can inhibit the complex organic reactions required for life. Observed planets often fail on multiple counts simultaneously, demonstrating that life-friendly conditions require extreme specificity. While Kepler, TESS, and JWST show that rocky planets are widespread, the combination of surface pressure, chemical composition, temperature, magnetic protection, and orbital stability necessary for long-term habitability occurs only in rare instances. These findings revise expectations for detecting life. Surveys looking for biosignatures must account for planetary fragility and atmospheric instability. Many targets previously deemed promising are now considered unlikely to host life. Instead of hundreds of millions of potentially habitable planets, refined models indicate a far smaller number meet all necessary criteria. The universe remains filled with rocky worlds, yet most are sterile deserts, hot gas envelopes, or frozen wastelands. Observational evidence consistently points to life-friendly planets as statistical outliers, not a common galactic feature. Exoplanet missions also provide insight into why technological civilizations may be rare. Life that barely emerges on a fragile world may struggle to persist long enough for intelligence to develop. Atmosphere loss, orbital instability, and chemical volatility create environments where even microbial life cannot maintain continuity over billions of years. The universe may produce life occasionally, but persistent evolving ecosystems capable of producing intelligent species are exceptional. Planets must survive multiple hazards while maintaining stable conditions, a requirement that reduces the fraction of life-bearing worlds drastically. JWS and TESS have also highlighted the role of stellar history in habitability. Many stars experience early periods of intense flare activity, stripping planetary atmospheres before life has a chance to take hold. Even Earth experienced high-energy solar winds, but our magnetic field and atmosphere preserved surface conditions. Many exoplanets lack such protective features, exposing surfaces to sterilizing radiation. Habitability is therefore contingent not only on planetary traits, but also on stellar behavior, which adds an additional layer of rarity. Planetary size, orbit, and chemistry alone are insufficient. The host star must be favorable across billions of years. Atmospheric erosion and extreme conditions further affect the potential for biosignature detection. Planets losing their atmospheres cannot develop complex chemistry, preventing the buildup of gases detectable from Earth. Runaway greenhouse conditions, such as those observed on some exoplanets, make it impossible for liquid water to persist, even temporarily. Surface conditions may alternate between extreme heat and cold, producing no stable environment for life. JWS has revealed that several planets in habitable zones of red dwarfs are completely stripped of air or show only tenuous, chemically hostile envelopes. These findings emphasize that the classic habitable zone metric is insufficient for assessing life potential. The data also show that system-wide dynamics influence habitability. Giant planet migrations, gravitational perturbations, and collisions can destabilize the inner habitable zone, producing sterilizing impacts or ejecting planets from the system. Kepler's long-duration surveys reveal that such instabilities are common. The survival of Earth-like planets requires stable planetary architecture over billions of years, a requirement met by only a small fraction of observed systems. Even with favorable conditions, planetary fragility often prevents life from persisting long enough to evolve intelligence. Galactic timescale. The scale of the galaxy makes the silence striking. The Milky Way contains over 100 billion stars spread across roughly 100,000 light-years, and even at a fraction of light speed, a technologically advanced civilization could traverse it within a few million years. 10 million years is a blink compared to the galaxy's 13 billion-year history. Civilizations with propulsion technologies significantly beyond current human capability could cross vast distances, sending exploration craft, automated probes, or even entire colonization fleets. If any intelligent life emerged before us, especially millions of years earlier, it would have had ample opportunity to reach the solar system multiple times. The vastness of space, once seen as a limiting factor, becomes irrelevant when considering civilizations that can survive and travel for geological timescales. Interstellar travel at sublight speeds, combined with self-replicating technology, would allow rapid colonization. A single spacecraft carrying construction capabilities and programming could establish outposts at nearby stars, produce copies of itself using local materials, and continue spreading. This exponential expansion means that even a modestly advanced civilization emerging tens of millions of years before humanity could populate the entire galaxy. With multiple stars within a few dozen light years, the nearest habitable systems could be reached within thousands of years. Over millions of years, the entire spiral arm could be explored, mapped, and potentially settled. Given this timescale, any absence of contact is not a matter of travel limitations. It is an absence of civilizations capable of expansion, or one that chooses not to expand visibly. Galactic timescale also magnifies the improbability of persistent isolation. Even civilizations that evolve intermittently or face periodic collapse would leave detectable remnants over millions of years. Spacecraft, communication signals, or artifacts could persist far longer than biological civilizations. The opportunity for contact, observation, or detection exists across time, not just across space. With stars forming and dying continuously, multiple generations of intelligent species could emerge, each capable of traversing interstellar distances, yet the solar system shows no evidence of any contact. This discrepancy highlights a profound tension. The galaxy is old and vast enough that any civilization with the ability and inclination to travel should have reached us, yet the silence remains absolute. Even when accounting for slower development or conservative expansion, millions of years allow for repeated attempts at exploration. Civilizations may experience collapse, environmental catastrophe, or internal conflict, but the probability that a single species never achieves a phase of interstellar travel over millions of years approaches zero. Any civilization that lasts long enough, with the ability to leave its home system, could have left detectable traces. If technology follows a pattern similar to humanity's rapid growth, a civilization emerging just a few million years before us would already have reached the stars and left markers in the solar system. The time scale alone, combined with a robustness of self-replicating or persistent probes, makes the complete absence of evidence deeply surprising. Despite extensive observation of the solar system and nearby space, no evidence of extraterrestrial artifacts exists. Searches for physical probes, abandoned spacecraft, or engineered structures within the asteroid belt, moons, or planetary surfaces have turned up nothing. High-resolution imaging of the Moon, Mars, and nearby asteroids shows natural geology in every case. Satellite scanning for unusual reflectivity or material composition detect only natural minerals and formations. Even objects that might be intentionally hidden or small enough to avoid casual detection fail to appear in systematic surveys. The expected markers of alien exploration, such as persistent machinery, energy sources, or structures, are absent throughout the inner solar system. Self-replicating probes, often proposed as a likely first stage in galactic exploration, would leave telltale signatures. Such machines could mine asteroids, construct communication arrays, or maintain orbital infrastructure to facilitate further replication. Even a single malfunctioning probe would persist for thousands or millions of years, yet nothing resembling artificial machinery is found in the solar system. This absence extends beyond the planets themselves. Lagrange points, stable regions where objects can remain indefinitely, show no evidence of technological occupation. Debris fields, long-term orbital objects, and distant minor planets remain natural in composition. The predicted proliferation of such probes, based on theoretical models, contrasts sharply with observational reality. Electromagnetic leakage, another anticipated artifact of a spacefaring civilization, is also missing. Humanity emits radio waves, radar, and other electromagnetic energy that extends tens of light years beyond the solar system. Comparable emissions from an extraterrestrial civilization would be detectable if they existed. Surveys covering radio frequencies, infrared signals, and other potential techno signatures reveal no anomalous patterns. Even intermittent signals, bursts, or directed communication attempts would be observable in modern searches, yet the sky is quiet. The solar system and its immediate vicinity, despite extensive monitoring and instrumentation, show no evidence of probes, artifacts, or transmissions from civilizations capable of interstellar activity. This absence suggests that either civilizations capable of reaching other systems are extremely rare, transient, or avoid leaving detectable traces. Fermi heart implications. The Fermi heart analysis frames this silence as a paradox. If intelligent life is common, and if expansion across the galaxy is feasible within millions of years, the Milky Way should be teeming with evidence of colonization or exploration. The absence of such evidence both within the solar system and across observed star systems contradicts expectations. Any civilization capable of interstellar expansion should have left a detectable footprint. Yet surveys, telescopes, and space probes reveal a galaxy dominated by natural processes alone. According to Hart's reasoning, the absence of contact suggests that either intelligent civilizations rarely achieve detectable technological capacity, self-destruct quickly, or deliberately refrain from expansion. Even minimal assumptions about speed and replication lead to startling conclusions. A civilization traveling at a few % of light speed with replication capability could fill a spiral arm in under 10 million years. Multiple civilizations arising across the galaxy over billions of years would have had ample time to overlap in space, sending probes and signals in all directions. The lack of such evidence implies extreme rarity, extraordinarily short-lived technological civilizations, or some barrier preventing expansion. Fermi's paradox, when combined with Hart's analysis, converts the question from speculation into a measurable scientific challenge. It becomes an observation-based puzzle. The galaxy should be full, yet it is empty of detectable civilizations. The absence of expansion markers reinforces the idea that technological civilizations may be constrained by internal or external filters. Catastrophic events, energy limitations, ecological collapse, or self-destruction could terminate civilizations before they reach interstellar capabilities. Alternatively, civilizations may exist but remain deliberately quiet, avoiding activities that could broadcast their presence. Even with conservative assumptions, the contrast between galactic timescales, feasible expansion methods, and the observed emptiness underscores a profound mismatch between expectation and reality. The Milky Way, old and large enough to host countless opportunities for intelligent life, shows no signs of colonization, probes, or artifacts, emphasizing the extreme rarity of civilizations that reach detectable technological thresholds. These observations align with other findings about planetary habitability and technological bottlenecks. Fragile planets, limited energy resources, and rare evolutionary paths reduce the fraction of life-bearing worlds that can produce spacefaring civilizations. The absence of probes and artifacts complements the techno signature desert, revealing a galaxy where intelligence may arise, but rarely survives long enough to explore the stars. Hart's framework quantifies this rarity, turning silence into data. Every empty asteroid belt, quiet moon, and unmarked orbital region reinforces the evidence. The galaxy is vast, old, and remarkably clean, suggesting that the emergence of detectable civilizations is not just rare, but exceptional, constrained by multiple biological, technological, and cosmic filters. The idea of a dark forest, where every civilization deliberately hides to avoid detection, sounds dramatic, but measurable science contradicts it at every turn. Any advanced civilization producing energy for heat, light, propulsion, or industrial activity cannot erase all traces of its existence. Physics does not bend to discretion. Even a civilization taking every possible step to hide communication signals would still emit waste heat, infrared radiation, and other detectable byproducts. Every structure, energy use, and star-altering project carries a thermodynamic signature, and surveys across the Milky Way detect none of it. Our instruments are capable of spotting anomalies in stellar emission, artificial transits, and cosmic-scale energy use. Yet every signal examined matches natural astrophysical processes. Infrared surveys, one of the most sensitive tools for detecting hidden civilizations, find no evidence of large-scale energy consumption. Dyson spheres, megastructures designed to capture a star's output, would reroute starlight and radiate heat at predictable wavelengths. The fact that no unusual infrared excess appears around nearby stars or across the galactic plane indicates no civilization is redirecting massive amounts of energy. Even partial megastructures or small-scale star modification projects would produce measurable signals over thousands of years, but the sky is uniform. Observations from WISE, Spitzer, and other infrared telescopes consistently show that stars behave naturally, with no anomalies that suggest artificial modification. Electromagnetic communication is also telling. Civilizations cannot hide all emissions unless they avoid using energy for any detectable purpose. Even assuming highly advanced, low-leakage communication technology, the scale of energy required to maintain planetary infrastructure, propulsion, or manufacturing leaves a thermal footprint. The galaxy appears quiet, not because civilizations are stealthy, but because those with the capability to produce detectable energy either do not exist, are exceedingly rare, or do not survive long enough to sustain detectable activity. The physics of energy conservation makes complete stealth on a galactic scale virtually impossible. Waste heat cannot be erased. Waste heat is a universal consequence of energy use. Any civilization harnessing energy from its star, chemical reactions, nuclear fission, or fusion produces heat as a byproduct. This radiation is not optional and cannot be cloaked without violating thermodynamic principles. Astronomers can measure infrared radiation across star systems to identify excess emission that could indicate artificial energy use. These surveys, covering thousands of stars, find no signs of abnormal heat patterns. Even a civilization attempting to minimize its thermal signature would leave some detectable trace. Stars with planetary systems appear unaltered, their spectra dominated by natural processes such as fusion, reflection, and dust absorption. The absence of excess radiation demonstrates that no civilization is conducting large-scale energy activities designed to remain undetected. This principle also applies to smaller technological projects. Planetary energy grids, industrial activity, or starships producing power would radiate heat at predictable wavelengths. The heat does not dissipate silently into space. It interacts with the environment and becomes measurable with sensitive detectors. Nearby stars show no deviations from expected infrared emission, indicating that any civilization capable of producing energy at scales comparable to human industrial activity is either absent or non-expanding. Even minimal attempts at hiding energy outputs would be observable if spread over long durations or concentrated enough to be statistically significant. The Milky Way, scanned comprehensively in multiple infrared bands, appears unaltered, supporting the conclusion that the dark forest scenario lacks empirical evidence. Thermal footprints cannot be localized and eliminated easily. Infrared emission spreads across space and can be detected over light years. A civilization attempting to mask its energy signature would need to account for every surface, power source, and industrial process. This level of control is unprecedented and physically unlikely. Surveys designed to detect even partial structures, such as Dyson swarms or orbiting energy collectors, return null results. The galaxy is thermally consistent with natural stellar populations. No large-scale civilization is leaving observable energy traces, and attempts to hide such traces would require capabilities far beyond any known physics. Beyond waste heat, a civilization attempting to hide would still leave signals that are nearly unavoidable. Planet-scale power systems emit electromagnetic energy across a range of frequencies. Even highly advanced communication networks cannot confine energy perfectly. Leakage, reflections, and scattering produce detectable signals. Surveys like SETI, Breakthrough Listen, and FAST have scanned millions of stars for narrowband or structured radio signals. The results show silence. No controlled broadcasts, intermittent pings, or organized emissions exist. civilizations that rely on energy at a scale comparable to planetary or stellar engineering inevitably produce detectable signatures, yet none appear across the galaxy. Artificial star dimming or megastructures designed to avoid detection also leave measurable effects. Stellar brightness, transit patterns, and occultation timing are observable with modern instruments. Even partial structures would create irregularities in light curves, but no such anomalies are present in the datasets from Kepler, TESS, or JWST. The absence of manipulated light suggests no civilizations are attempting to hide via stellar engineering. Any civilization trying to conceal its presence using large-scale astrophysical modifications would still be constrained by physical laws, producing detectable artifacts of its energy use. The empirical record shows nothing of the kind. The galaxy is not a silent stage because of fear or deliberate concealment. It is silent because measurable evidence of energy-intensive civilizations does not exist. The absence of detectable waste heat, controlled signals, and star dimming is a scientific observation. It is a direct measurement, not an assumption. Any hypothesis claiming civilizations are hiding must contend with these measurable constraints. The consistency of stellar behavior across the Milky Way and the absence of anomalies in electromagnetic surveys provide strong evidence that the dark forest idea conflicts with observable reality. No matter how advanced a civilization might be, hiding completely from these detection methods violates known physics. Even in hypothetical scenarios where civilizations attempt perfect stealth, the data indicate that achieving it would require energies and precision far beyond known capabilities. Observationally, no targets exhibit the faint signs of manipulation or engineering that a hiding civilization would leave. The infrared sky, radio surveys, and optical light curves remain natural. Stars shine naturally, planets reflect light predictably, and space is free of artificial structures. Any civilization capable of advanced energy use would have left detectable traces in one of these channels, yet none are observed. The universe presents a record of silence, not strategic avoidance. The scientific record is therefore clear. Hiding civilizations cannot explain the observed emptiness. Waste heat, radiation, and signals are unavoidable consequences of energy use. Telescopes, surveys, and probes detect no anomalies that would indicate artificial manipulation or concealment. Every metric we have, infrared emission, radio spectrum, stellar behavior, orbital stability, shows natural processes dominate. The dark forest is a narrative, not a model supported by measurement. Physics, not fear, governs detectability, and the Milky Way shows no evidence of civilizations taking extraordinary steps to remain unseen. Early universe violence. The early universe was a storm of energy, radiation, and chaos. For the first few billion years after the Big Bang, galaxies were small, dense, and colliding frequently. Star formation was intense, creating massive, short-lived stars that ended their lives in violent supernova explosions. These explosions bathed nascent planetary systems in radiation, stripping atmospheres and irradiating surfaces. Even if a planet formed in a temporary habitable zone, constant cosmic bombardment made long-term survival for life impossible. Metallicity, the presence of elements heavier than hydrogen and helium, was extremely low in the first few billion years. Life requires stable, complex molecules, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and trace metals, to build proteins, DNA, and cellular machinery. Early star systems were composed primarily of hydrogen and helium, limiting the chemical complexity needed to sustain life. Planets forming in these environments were unlikely to retain thick atmospheres or liquid water, and those that did were continuously exposed to lethal radiation from nearby supernovae or gamma-ray bursts. Even planetary formation itself was chaotic. Young protoplanetary disks were subject to gravitational instabilities, causing collisions that could vaporize forming planets. High-energy stellar winds and ultraviolet radiation from the first massive stars eroded atmospheres and prevented volatile retention. The universe, while expanding and cooling, remained a place hostile to sustained biochemistry. Any life attempting to emerge faced near constant destruction. Habitable conditions, even temporarily, were extraordinarily rare and unstable. The frequency of gamma-ray bursts in the early universe was orders of magnitude higher than today. These bursts, often associated with the deaths of massive stars, could sterilize entire regions of galaxies, wiping out prebiotic chemistry across tens of thousands of light years. Young planets within these zones could not accumulate the molecular complexity necessary for life. Radiation from nearby active galactic nuclei also created hostile conditions, ionizing planetary atmospheres and preventing the formation of protective ozone layers. Early galaxies were dangerous, and the probability of life surviving long enough to achieve even the simplest cellular structures was vanishingly small. Even within pockets of relative calm, the early universe lacked stability. Frequent mergers between galaxies generated bursts of star formation and intense radiation fields. The gravitational chaos destabilized planetary orbits, leading to collisions, ejections, or extreme climate fluctuations on any potentially habitable worlds. The combination of low metallicity, high radiation, and dynamic gravitational environments made it unlikely that life as we know it could persist or even begin. On a cosmic timescale, the first several billion years of the universe were a crucible that destroyed any fragile chemical arrangements before they could develop into life. Life-friendly environments are a very recent development on a cosmic scale. Only after successive generations of stars fused hydrogen and helium into heavier elements and seeded the interstellar medium did planets with sufficient metallicity become common. Elements such as carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and iron, critical for building cells, proteins, and enzymes, were rare in early star systems. Only after 3 or 4 generations of massive stars exploded could enough metals accumulate to support complex chemistry. The formation of stable planetary systems capable of retaining atmospheres and liquid water required both time and the right stellar environment. Early galaxies were compact and chaotic, but as spiral galaxies like the Milky Way formed, star formation slowed, allowing planetary orbits to stabilize. This created regions where radiation exposure was lower and volatile retention was possible. Even so, habitable planets were sparse, scattered across the galaxy in pockets of stability. Life-friendly conditions required precise metallicity, calm stellar activity, and orbital stability, which did not become common until relatively recently in cosmic history. Gamma-ray bursts, supernova frequency, and high-energy radiation gradually decreased as galaxies aged. Star formation shifted to longer-lived, smaller stars, reducing the frequency of sterilizing events. Only in these quieter eras could life emerge and persist long enough to reach even microbial complexity. Early environments were simply too volatile, and most chemical pathways necessary for life would have been destroyed before completion. The late emergence of stable conditions means that life, if it exists elsewhere, is almost certainly a product of more recent galactic history. The concentration of elements required for planets to develop oceans, continents, and atmospheres took billions of years. Early planets often formed without sufficient water retention, or with volatile atmospheres stripped away by intense radiation. Only when the interstellar medium became enriched with heavier elements could rocky planets maintain stable environments. The timing of these processes coincides with the formation of the solar system, suggesting that Earth is among the first generations of planets in the galaxy to experience truly life-capable conditions. Even small variations in metallicity, stellar activity, or orbital stability could make the difference between a sterile world and a habitable one. Most planets formed early in the universe lacked the combination of factors necessary for stable liquid water, oxygen-rich atmospheres, and biochemically rich environments. Habitable conditions, therefore, are not common. They are a rare product of billions of years of cosmic evolution, emerging only after the universe matured enough to support stable chemistry, protective atmospheres, and predictable climates. We may be among the first generations. Given the timing of galactic evolution, Earth may be part of one of the first generations of planets capable of supporting life. The universe has existed for 13.8 billion years, but life-friendly environments have only been common for the last 4 to 5 billion years. The Milky Way itself formed around 13.5 billion years ago, but early star systems lacked the metals necessary for life. Only after repeated stellar generations did regions appear where planets could retain atmospheres, water, and the chemical diversity necessary for biology. This recent emergence implies that, across cosmic time, life-capable planets are rare and young. Many potentially habitable planets may not have had sufficient time to develop complex life, and civilizations would be correspondingly sparse. Earth, forming at just the right time in the galaxy's evolutionary history, occupies a window when life-friendly conditions are present but not yet widespread. The timing may be unique. The galaxy is now capable of sustaining life, but the universe has not had billions more years to fill it with civilizations. Even if life can emerge relatively quickly on planets like Earth, the window of opportunity has been narrow. Early galaxies were hostile. Midlife galaxies are just becoming conducive to life, and the cosmic scale means that civilizations arising elsewhere would be scattered and young. Life-friendly conditions are fleeting, dependent on a delicate balance of stellar stability, planetary composition, and galactic radiation environment. The solar system exists in a rare niche, a stable, metal-rich star orbiting within the galactic habitable zone, with protective giant planets and moderate radiation exposure. This temporal rarity reduces the likelihood of encountering older, spacefaring civilizations. Many potentially habitable planets may only now be entering their life-capable phase. Others may never achieve it, either due to planetary instability, lack of metals, or sterilizing events. The cumulative effect of cosmic timing makes Earth and its contemporaries among the earliest stable environments capable of sustaining complex life. The universe may remain largely empty of life simply because most of it has not yet reached the point where life can exist safely and persist long enough to become intelligent. The dark sky, devoid of techno signatures, aligns with this timing. If life-friendly conditions are extremely recent on cosmic scales, civilizations capable of interstellar exploration have had limited time to arise. The early universe's violence explains why most of the galaxy remains biologically empty, and the narrow window of opportunity suggests that Earth is an unusually fortunate site where conditions converged precisely to allow life to begin and survive. Civilization, if it emerges at all, is constrained not just by planetary and biological factors, but by the cosmic timing of safe, stable environments. Galactic chronology also suggests that we may be among the first civilizations capable of advanced technology. Most habitable planets elsewhere may be young, their life forms still developing complexity or in the early stages of evolution. Stars much older than the Sun exist, but many have no planets with the right combination of metals, atmospheres, and orbital stability. Younger star systems are only beginning to reach a maturity where life can survive. Earth sits at a critical point in cosmic history, old enough for metals to accumulate, but early enough that few other civilizations have had the chance to rise. This timing reinforces the idea that life across the universe is fragile and rare, not just due to biological constraints, but because the conditions for life have been present for a short period relative to the age of the cosmos. Cosmic violence, metallicity distribution, radiation environments, and planetary stability all constrain when and where life can exist. The emergence of life on Earth may represent a narrow window of opportunity, one of the earliest generations in a universe only now becoming suitable for sustained biology. Universal speed limits. The universe imposes boundaries that are impossible to bypass. The speed of light is not just a number, it is the ultimate speed limit that defines how information, matter, and energy can move across cosmic distances. No matter how advanced a civilization becomes, no signal can travel faster than light, and no physical object can surpass this boundary. Even within our own galaxy, this law has massive consequences. Interstellar distances are enormous, and communication or travel between stars becomes a decades or centuries-long endeavor, even at the speed of light. A civilization emerging even a few million years before or after us would still be separated by gaps too vast to overcome quickly. The physics of space-time itself isolates worlds, enforcing a solitude dictated by the universe. Light-year distances are not trivial numbers. Our nearest star, Proxima Centauri, is over 4 light-years away. A civilization with the fastest spacecraft conceivable by today's physics would require decades to reach even nearby stars. Multiply this across thousands of potentially habitable systems in the Milky Way, and it becomes clear that expansion on a galactic scale is slow, cumbersome, and subject to immense logistical challenges. Communication signals alone, traveling at light speed, take years to traverse even a small fraction of the galaxy. Sending probes, messages, or travelers across tens of thousands of light-years becomes an enterprise that stretches across millennia. Civilization may rise, flourish, and collapse long before contact is even possible. The physics of the expanding universe compounds this isolation. Space itself is stretching, accelerating due to dark energy, pushing galaxies apart. Many star systems that might currently lie within range of our instruments are moving away faster than the speed of light relative to us because of this cosmic expansion. They are not fleeing in a conventional sense. Space itself grows, carrying galaxies beyond reach. Even if advanced civilizations exist, the universe is segregating itself into isolated pockets, with distances increasing every second. This expansion makes future interstellar contact not just difficult, but fundamentally impossible for regions already receding beyond our light horizon. Time itself becomes a barrier. Even civilizations with rapid technological progression are bound by the cosmic clock. While humans might think in decades or centuries, galactic evolution occurs on millions or billions of years. A civilization emerging in one sector may never interact with another that arose elsewhere because the intervening space stretches faster than travel or communication can bridge. Any attempt to synchronize activity or share knowledge becomes improbable. The universe's expansion ensures that even if intelligent life exists, it is drifting into solitude, unreachable and undetectable across cosmic time. Physical constraints also affect probe deployment. Self-replicating probes, a theoretical solution to galactic exploration, are still bound by local speed limits and resource availability. They can copy themselves using materials found in planetary systems, but even at maximum efficiency, the scale of the Milky Way slows the process. A civilization attempting to fill the galaxy with such machines would require millions of years, and any signals or artifacts left behind would have to survive against cosmic hazards, radiation, collisions, and gravitational disruption. The universe is not only vast, but also hostile to sustained propagation. The combination of distance, acceleration, and cosmic hazards effectively isolates emerging civilizations in a way no technology can fully overcome. Cosmic silence across wavelengths. The silence of the galaxy is not just a perception, it is a measurable phenomenon across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Infrared surveys, designed to detect unnatural heat sources or megastructures, show a universe dominated by natural processes. Instruments like WISE, Spitzer, and WWS have scanned thousands of stars and entire regions of the Milky Way for excess infrared emission, the kind that would indicate artificial energy consumption. The results are uniform. Stars shine naturally, and no structures, no star cloaking, no exotic waste heat appear anywhere. Even if civilizations tried to hide using sophisticated engineering, they could not avoid the fundamental laws of thermodynamics. Any large-scale energy use produces heat, and that heat radiates outward, detectable by instruments sensitive enough to measure faint anomalies. Radio surveys amplify the mystery. SETI initiatives, Breakthrough Listen and FAST, have scanned millions of stars for artificial patterns in radio frequencies, including narrowband signals, encoded bursts, and repeated transmissions that cannot be explained by natural processes. Each dataset confirms silence. No leaks from interstellar communication networks, no periodic beacons, no techno signatures appear. Even if a civilization attempted to minimize leakage or hide messages, the sheer scale of energy required for planetary or interstellar operations would still create measurable emissions. Electromagnetic leakage cannot be fully suppressed, yet the sky remains quiet, without any sign of structured broadcasts or intelligent manipulation of frequencies. Optical wavelengths add another dimension to this silence. Laser searches for short pulses of concentrated light, which could serve as communication or signaling devices, have returned null results. High-intensity laser pulses, even for brief moments, should stand out against natural stellar variability. Yet surveys scanning thousands of systems see no artificial pulses. The absence of signals is significant because such emissions could travel light-years almost instantly and would be detectable over vast distances with existing technology. The optical spectrum reinforces what infrared and radio surveys already show. The galaxy contains no detectable traces of technological activity. Gravitational methods, once purely theoretical, now provide another layer of observation. Gravimetric scans can detect artificial mass manipulation, such as structures orbiting stars, moving planets, or megascale engineering. These methods can spot the slightest anomalies in gravitational fields caused by unnatural arrangements of matter. Surveys of nearby star systems, including our own neighborhood, reveal nothing beyond expected astrophysical behaviors. Every planetary orbit, star cluster, and mass distribution conforms to natural models. No civilizations leave detectable imprints on the gravitational landscape of the galaxy, indicating either extreme rarity, extreme youth, or complete absence of such civilizations. The combination of electromagnetic, optical, and gravitational silence is overwhelming. Across every measurable channel, infrared, radio, optical, and gravitational, the galaxy exhibits no signs of manipulation, engineering, or communication that could be attributed to advanced civilizations. This is not a failure of instruments. It is a statement of observation. Telescopes and surveys are now capable of detecting subtle anomalies, yet nothing beyond natural processes exists. The universe is measured, scanned, and observed, and everywhere, silence dominates. The speed of light, cosmic expansion, and multi-wavelength silence together reinforce the isolation of potential civilizations. Even if life arises elsewhere, the distance and acceleration of space physically prevent interaction. Civilizations capable of interstellar communication or travel remain confined to their local neighborhoods. Beyond a certain distance, no signal, probe, or artifact can reach another system before the galaxy itself expands and separates them. This isolation occurs passively, without the need for deliberate hiding. It is a natural consequence of the universe's structure and the physics governing it. Even theoretical strategies for rapid interstellar expansion, like self-replicating probes or instantaneous communications, are constrained by physics. Probes cannot exceed light speed, and signal propagation is fundamentally limited to the same boundary. Any civilization attempting to contact another would find its reach shrinking over time due to cosmic acceleration. Galaxies are receding, distances increasing, and with every passing second, regions of space become unreachable. Civilization is effectively compartmentalized, trapped in islands of potential life-capable planets. This isolation explains the techno-signature desert. The absence of waste heat, engineered starlight, radio chatter, laser pulses, or artificial gravitational anomalies is not necessarily a sign of a lack of intelligence alone, but a direct consequence of physical isolation. Even if other civilizations exist, they may never appear in our observations simply because they are too far away, too young, or moving away faster than we can reach. Interstellar physics ensures that even active, energy-intensive civilizations leave minimal detectable footprints outside their immediate neighborhood. The Milky Way is both a vast laboratory and a vault. Within it, stars, planets, and potential civilizations exist, but physics enforces distance, delays, and isolation. Time itself stretches for observers attempting to connect across tens of thousands of light years. Cosmic acceleration ensures that many stars will recede beyond our observable horizon, permanently removing any possibility of contact. The universe is measured, deterministic, and indifferent. It does not allow galactic-scale civilizations to roam freely, communicate rapidly, or leave easily detectable artifacts. The laws of physics act as a filter, limiting both the development and observation of technological life. Even if civilizations reached a level of energy use far beyond our imagination, they would still be constrained by waste heat, emission, and gravity. Instruments scanning every wavelength of the galaxy see no evidence of manipulation, proving that the combination of cosmic physics and technological limits maintains the silence. The galaxy's emptiness is therefore not a failure of observation, but a reflection of natural isolation reinforced by physical laws. Civilizations, if they exist, are trapped within regions defined by light speed travel, expansion rates, and the inability to project detectable signals over vast distances. Isolation is inevitable because the universe grows and accelerates relentlessly. The cosmic fabric itself stretches space between stars and galaxies, ensuring that civilizations are separated over distances that increase with time. The window for contact narrows every second, and the probability of detecting other life decreases correspondingly. Even with advanced surveys, the universe outside our local neighborhood remains silent, empty, and isolated. Observation aligns perfectly with prediction. The physics of the universe prevents detectable contact, leaving any civilization confined, separated, and unseen. The silence across wavelengths is therefore both a measurement and a consequence of physics. Infrared shows no megastructures, radio shows no artificial patterns, lasers produce no detectable pulses, gravitational surveys reveal no unnatural mass arrangements. The laws of the universe, combined with technological realities, make the galaxy effectively quiet, empty, and isolated. No civilization, no matter how advanced, can circumvent these constraints. Light speed limits, cosmic expansion, and thermodynamics dictate isolation and silence as much as absence of life does. The universe presents a dual picture. Potential habitats exist, and yet space enforces solitude. Stars shine, planets orbit, and galaxies swirl, but detectable civilization remains absent. Expansion and physical constraints make contact improbable, while multi-wavelength surveys confirm a lack of techno signatures. Civilizations may emerge, flourish, or collapse within their own pockets, yet they leave no record, no signal, and no trace. The galaxy is vast, and physics is relentless. Silence is not just observed, it is built into the very structure of reality. The hunt across the galaxy. Humanity has poured decades of effort into listening to the cosmos, building instruments capable of detecting the faintest whisper of intelligent life across the vast reaches of the galaxy. The FAST telescope in China stretches 500 meters across, a single dish capable of capturing signals weaker than any previous instrument could hope to detect. Its eye scans the sky, catching every flicker, every variation in radio waves that might hint at something beyond natural astrophysical processes. Meerkat in South Africa, a network of 64 dishes working in unison, delivers unprecedented resolution and sensitivity, mapping the radio sky with detail unimaginable just a few decades ago. The Square Kilometre Array, or SKA, is under development to surpass even these giants, promising a system with the collecting power of an entire mountain of radio receivers, capable of observing billions of stars across the Milky Way, with precision that forces our models of cosmic signals to evolve in real time. Breakthrough Listen launched in 2015, added a layer of systematic rigor to the search. Targeting hundreds of nearby stars, thousands of galaxies, and hundreds of millions of potential sources, the project scrutinizes every narrowband anomaly, every spike in electromagnetic emission, every potential signal for patterns that might indicate technology. The surveys are relentless, continuous, and exhaustive. Every detection is analyzed with layers of software, tested against interference, natural phenomena, and statistical noise, seeking the unique fingerprints of intelligence. The volume of data is staggering, demanding thousands of processors, machine learning systems, and teams of scientists working simultaneously across continents. The search is no longer speculative. It is methodical, precise, and pushes technology to its absolute limits. False alarms are a constant companion. Hydrogen line anomalies, once considered potential beacons, often vanish under scrutiny. Narrowband peaks appear in the data, promising potential discoveries, only to be traced back to satellites, Earth-based interference, or subtle flaws in calibration. Candidate signals rise and fall, each one a temptation, a hope that is dashed upon the harsh reality of measurement. Every anomaly is a test, and every test reinforces the broader picture. Silence dominates. Yet the search intensifies rather than discourages. Each instrument built, each survey conducted, increases sensitivity, decreases ambiguity, and paradoxically makes the absence of detected signals more profound, more significant. FAST, Meerkat, and SKA are designed not just to detect, but to quantify the unexpected. Their receivers are capable of distinguishing minute differences between cosmic background noise and structured transmissions. Every star within their observational range is catalogued, and data streams in at rates of terabytes per day. Analysts sift through electromagnetic echoes, looking for narrow pulses, repeating patterns, or coded sequences. The hardware can isolate phenomena that would have been invisible to all previous generations of observers, yet the galaxy remains quiet. The silence is not a limitation of instruments, but a reflection of reality. No artificial signals, no coded pulses, and no technological fingerprints appear anywhere within the reach of the most sensitive devices humanity has ever created. Breakthrough. Listen and other surveys have produced moments of excitement. Hydrogen line anomalies occasionally spike, narrowband signals appear in a star's vicinity, and data suggests something could be present that defies natural explanation. Teams examine these occurrences with rigor, cross-checking instruments, removing Earth origin interference, and repeating observations to confirm anomalies. Yet every single time, the signals fail to persist. They vanish when observed from different angles, or when recalibrated instruments confirm terrestrial interference. Signals initially promising enough to spark press releases and headlines dissolve into background noise. Each disappointment serves a purpose. It refines methodology, improves detection algorithms, and demonstrates just how quiet the cosmos is across frequencies we can observe. The search reveals patterns not in presence, but in absence. Across millions of stars, across entire regions of the Milky Way, there is no recurring signal, no repeated beacon, no signature that cannot be accounted for by natural astrophysical processes. Even the most densely packed star fields, the most active regions of stellar formation, show only natural emissions. Supernova remnants, pulsars, magnetars, and radio galaxies all create detectable signals, but none of them carry information in a way that could be interpreted as technological. The silence is consistent across regions, across wavelengths, and across the most sensitive instruments humanity can deploy. False positives are part of the process, but they are also a testament to the precision of the search. Candidate signals rise to the level of intrigue because the instruments are capable of identifying deviations that are genuinely unusual. Narrowband spikes that appear and disappear are not trivial. They are anomalies that exceed the thresholds of natural variability. Each one is investigated meticulously, yet none survive scrutiny. It is a pattern that emerges not just from lack of detection, but from the contrast between our expectations and reality. The instruments are designed to detect subtle manipulations of energy across space. If extraterrestrial civilizations existed nearby and used radio or similar electromagnetic signaling, even sporadically, these instruments would have detected something. The significance of increased sensitivity cannot be overstated. Older instruments with limited resolution could dismiss anomalies as statistical noise. Today, every minor deviation is captured, catalogued, and analyzed. Narrowband peaks, brief bursts, and repeating pulses would stand out in a dataset like a flare in the night sky. The fact that nothing stands out confirms the severity of the silence. Technology has reached a point where absence is as informative as presence. It shapes the understanding of our galaxy, suggesting that if civilizations capable of generating detectable signals exist, they are either vanishingly rare, extremely cautious, or so distant that no signal can reach us across the void. The implications of precision. The most advanced searches tell a story in their absence of detection. FAST, Meerkat, SKA, and Breakthrough Listen represent the pinnacle of human observational capability, yet their findings converge on the same truth. The galaxy is quiet. No signal, no transmission, and no pattern across radio, optical, or infrared spectra. This precision amplifies the implications. As the instruments become more sensitive, the volume of space observed increases exponentially. Every star examined, every spectral band analyzed, every candidate signal scrutinized sharpens the picture. With each advancement in technology, the emptiness of the galaxy becomes more pronounced, more measurable, and more significant scientifically. Breakthrough Listen has expanded its survey to include tens of millions of stars, scanning entire galaxies for signals, and yet all candidate events vanish under scrutiny. Even when anomalies appear at hydrogen frequencies or in narrowband spectrums, analysis consistently attributes them to either human activity, satellites, or natural astrophysical sources. The false positives demonstrate the sensitivity of modern instruments, but also underscore the reality. No civilization within reach of detection is leaving detectable traces. These results are consistent across continents and telescopes, using independent observational methods and separate hardware. The silence is not a lack of effort, it is a consequence of unprecedented capability. Modern instruments can detect even the faintest artificial emissions, yet the galaxy shows no evidence of technological activity. This finding challenges assumptions about the prevalence of life capable of advanced engineering. Every new telescope, every upgraded receiver, every improvement in signal processing should increase the chances of detection, yet instead, the data reinforces the emptiness. If technological civilizations were common, if energy-intensive civilizations existed within observable reach, these instruments would find them. The absence of signals across multiple wavelengths, across enormous datasets, and with extreme sensitivity is one of the most powerful findings in observational astronomy. The technological capability of these searches also means that prior theories of widespread galactic civilization are increasingly untenable. SETI efforts that predicted easily detectable transmissions or waste heat signatures now face the reality of vast methodical silence. Instruments like FAST can capture energy fluctuations smaller than those produced by a small power plant on a distant planet. Meerkat and SKA allow astronomers to detect coherent emissions with precision orders of magnitude greater than previous surveys. Yet, despite these capabilities, the galaxy remains empty in any measure of artificial electromagnetic presence. The combined power of these instruments and surveys emphasizes the rarity, difficulty, and isolation of civilizations capable of detectable technology. Any civilization would have to not only survive planetary hazards, extinction events, and cosmic phenomena, but also emerge capable of producing energy at scales and in forms detectable across interstellar distances. The fact that nothing appears, despite instruments able to detect minute signals across millions of stars, suggests that these civilizations are exceedingly rare or non-existent within our observational window. It also underscores the fragility of life capable of technology, the improbability of survival long enough to emit detectable signals, and the immense distances over which any emissions would have to travel. The hunt continues, relentlessly, with every telescope upgrade, every new array, every survey expanding the range and sensitivity. Every day, terabytes of data are collected, processed, and analyzed, and every day, the galaxy remains silent. The precision of modern instruments leaves no room for ignorance or error. Anomalies that could once have been dismissed as noise are now detected and examined in depth. The absence of persistent, verifiable techno-signatures is thus not merely the failure to find extraterrestrial life. It is an active measurement, a confirmation that across the wavelengths most suitable for interstellar detection, the galaxy produces no signals attributable to intelligent activity. This is the most advanced search ever attempted, and it has revealed the most striking truth about our galaxy. For all the stars, planets, and potential habitats, the observable universe within our reach remains silent. Instruments of unprecedented sensitivity, covering radio, infrared, optical, and gravimetric spectra, scan ceaselessly, yet detect no engineered signals. Every candidate anomaly is resolved, every narrowband peak explained by interference or natural phenomena, every potential transmission vanishes under scrutiny. The silence is absolute, consistent, and universal across the observational spectrum. Perfect timing for life. The Earth did not form at just any moment in the galaxy. Planet formation depends on the distribution of metals heavier than helium. Elements that only appear after successive generations of stars have lived and died. Without the death of ancient stars, the galaxy would lack the iron, silicon, carbon, and oxygen necessary to build rocky worlds. Our Sun is a relatively young star in galactic terms, born in a period where stellar metallicity was high enough to allow the formation of stable, Earth-like planets, yet not so late that planetary systems were crowded with nearby supernovae or dangerously active stars. The timing was narrow. Early galaxies were hostile, full of supernova and gamma-ray bursts, blasting the interstellar medium with lethal radiation, while metals were too sparse to form rocky planets. Later galaxies will have planets, but the universe will have expanded too far, separating stellar systems by distances that make communication and contact improbable. Earth's birth came at a precise window, giving the planet a combination of resources, stability, and isolation that is unlikely to repeat anywhere else in the galaxy on a similar timeline. The Sun itself has been unusually cooperative. Unlike many stars, our Sun experiences long, calm phases where magnetic storms are mild and predictable. Intense flaring, a common feature in younger or smaller stars, can strip atmospheres from nearby planets or irradiate surfaces, sterilizing emerging life. For billions of years, Earth has remained shielded from these extreme magnetic events, allowing life to develop in environments stable enough to support complex chemistry. This stability is far from guaranteed elsewhere. Most stars in the galaxy experience violent flaring or short lifespans, leaving insufficient time for life to progress beyond microbial stages. On Earth, the Sun's calmness combined with its lifespan of roughly 10 billion years to create a prolonged window where life could evolve steadily without catastrophic interruptions. Geological history adds another layer of uniqueness. The late heavy bombardment, a period of intense asteroid impacts nearly 4 billion years ago, almost sterilized Earth. Planetary surfaces were reshaped repeatedly, oceans boiled and reformed, and only small pockets of life could survive. Many planets elsewhere likely never escaped such repeated cataclysms. Our planet's ability to recover and maintain long-term habitability was exceptional. Stable continents, plate tectonics moderating climate, oceans buffering extremes, and a magnetic field deflecting cosmic radiation combined to provide life with an uninterrupted laboratory of billions of years. The timing of Earth's formation, the Sun's calmness, and the planet's geological resilience created an environment where life could not only arise, but persist long enough to eventually produce intelligence. Life has existed on Earth for more than 3 billion years. Yet intelligence, in the sense of a species capable of technological civilization, emerged only once. The evolutionary tree is crowded with billions of species over eons, each experimenting with survival strategies, yet none approach the complex cognition needed for technological society. The path to intelligence was not guaranteed. It required a perfect alignment of circumstances. Climate fluctuations forced adaptability in certain lineages, and species with social structures, communication systems, and manipulative capabilities had a selective edge. Only in primates did these pressures converge in a way that favored advanced cognition. Intelligence on Earth was not inevitable. It was an extraordinarily improbable accident. Other planets, even if they have habitable zones, oceans, or rich chemistries, may have life that never encounters the right ecological or environmental pressures to develop technological intelligence. The appearance of intelligence was also remarkably slow. Microbial life persisted for billions of years without advancing beyond single-celled complexity. Even after multicellularity emerged, progress to highly complex organisms took hundreds of millions of years. Eukaryotic cells, with their internal energy-producing organelles, represent one of the rarest evolutionary leaps, a requirement for multicellular life. From there, the evolution of vertebrates, mammals, and primates was contingent on ecological stability, mass extinctions, and random survival events. Intelligence emerged late in Earth's history, just as the planet was recovering from the last mass extinction events, demonstrating that the path was narrow and precarious. The odds against another civilization evolving independently, even on planets with life, are enormous. Beyond emergence, the window for detectable technology is shrinking. Civilizations that produce strong radio emissions or other detectable signals occupy only a tiny fraction of their potential lifespans. On Earth, radio leakage has been declining for decades. Our initial broadcasts, once spilling across the galaxy, are now being replaced by tightly focused fiber optics, laser communications, and encrypted transmissions. Any extraterrestrial civilization may similarly progress past a detectable phase within a few centuries or millennia. Even if intelligent life exists, the chance that their signal overlaps with our observational period is minimal. This makes Earth potentially the first technological civilization, not only because intelligence emerged uniquely, but because its detectable phase aligns with the period we are capable of observing. The isolation of advanced civilizations. Even if other civilizations exist, physical laws impose isolation. The speed of light is a universal limit, making galactic travel and communication extremely slow. A civilization 10 million years older could, in theory, expand throughout the galaxy, yet the absence of probes, artifacts, or signals in our solar system suggests that no one has reached or interacted with us. Self-replicating probes, nanotechnology, and electromagnetic leakage would be detectable if present, yet surveys reveal nothing. The Fermi heart argument, which predicts rapid galactic colonization, contrasts sharply with the observable silence. Technological civilizations may inherently become harder to detect over time. Early energy-intensive phases are brief. Once societies master high-efficiency communication, their outputs shrink, emissions are directed rather than broadcast, and observable techno-signatures decrease. The very act of survival and technological refinement may lead civilizations to hide themselves unintentionally. The galaxy may contain advanced civilizations, but if all follow this trajectory, detection becomes improbable. Earth may be the first civilization to develop both intelligence and detectable technology simultaneously in the Milky Way. This alignment is rare and may not repeat, reinforcing the likelihood that our civilization is a first rather than one of many contemporaries. The next decade of astronomy is set to redefine how we understand planets beyond our solar system. LUVOIR, the large UV/optical/infrared surveyor, represents a leap in scale and sensitivity, a telescope capable of detecting the faintest signals of atmospheres across hundreds of exoplanets. With its mirror spanning up to 15 meters, LUVOIR can resolve details previously impossible, capturing light from distant worlds and analyzing their chemical compositions with unprecedented precision. HABEX, the Habitable Exoplanet Observatory, complements LUVOIR with a focus entirely on the search for life. Its starshade system blocks out starlight, allowing even the faintest planetary glow to emerge, revealing subtle chemical fingerprints. Origin's Space Telescope extends the reach further into infrared, scanning for thermal signatures, biosignatures in complex molecules, and heat imbalances that hint at planetary processes. Together, these instruments will open a new window, not just cataloging planets, but probing their atmospheres in ways that directly inform the question of life's rarity. Every exoplanet discovery before these missions has been tantalizing, yet incomplete. Kepler and TESS revealed billions of planets, some Earth-sized and orbiting within habitable zones, but atmospheric data has often dashed expectations. Observations hint at planets losing atmospheres entirely, suffering runaway greenhouse effects, or harboring toxic gases incompatible with life as we know it. LUVOIR and HABEX will bring clarity, scanning dozens of these worlds for chemical signs of habitability, oxygen, ozone, methane, water vapor, and combinations that suggest active biological processes. Their instruments are designed to measure spectral lines with such accuracy that even subtle ratios of chemicals will become visible, a level of sensitivity previous missions could not achieve. Origin's Space Telescope adds the ability to measure planetary heat, tracing non-natural energy outputs and searching for imbalances that could hint at surface activity or even technological processes. The combination is a quantum leap in our observational power, creating the first true map of nearby habitable environments. These missions will operate under the guidance of decades of theoretical models, and expectations are grounded in science rather than hope. Astrobiology teams have long refined predictions using the Drake equation, stellar metallicity statistics, and planetary stability models. Data trends increasingly suggest that while small, rocky planets are common, the subset with stable, life-friendly atmospheres is far smaller than initial estimates suggested. Many planets in the habitable zone fail on other counts: tidally locked rotations, violent stellar activity, poor chemical composition, or unstable orbital paths. LUVOIR, HABEX, and Origins will provide the ability to test these probabilities directly, examining dozens to hundreds of candidates, confirming how many planets truly have atmospheres capable of supporting life, and whether they maintain these conditions for billions of years. The results will refine our understanding of habitability in ways no statistical model could previously achieve. Spectroscopy, the science of breaking light into its component wavelengths, is at the heart of the search for life. By analyzing starlight that passes through a planet's atmosphere, telescopes can detect specific molecules. Oxygen alone is insufficient as a biosignature because geological processes can produce it. Methane paired with oxygen, however, signals active chemistry inconsistent with abiotic mechanisms. Water vapor indicates the presence of liquid oceans, crucial for life as we know it, while ozone shields against lethal ultraviolet radiation. LUVOIR, HABEX, and Origins are capable of detecting these molecules even in faint, distant atmospheres. The precision of these scans will finally allow astronomers to differentiate planets that are superficially similar from those with real, sustained life potential. These biosignature scans are not simple point-and-shoot measurements. Planets are observed over months and years, as the light they reflect and emit varies with rotation, orbital phase, and seasonal changes. Variability itself provides clues, revealing climate dynamics, cloud formation, or geological activity. Repeated scans allow astronomers to see whether biosignatures are stable or transient. Many habitable zone planets observed so far show atmospheres that cannot hold life for long. JWST and previous instruments have already demonstrated that super-Earths in the habitable zone often suffer from extreme surface temperatures, volatile chemistry, or atmospheric loss. With LUVOIR, HABEX, and Origins, scientists will build robust datasets, not snapshots, creating time-resolved maps of planetary atmospheres. This approach will quantify how rare Earth-like conditions are and how long such conditions can be maintained, key information for assessing the likelihood of life elsewhere. Another critical aspect is the differentiation of natural versus biological sources. Telescopes will measure isotopic ratios, chemical imbalances, and spectral line shapes to determine whether molecules result from equilibrium geochemistry or active processes. Oxygen and methane in isolation could appear on many planets, but their coexistence over time suggests active replenishment, a hallmark of life. Detecting multiple biosignatures simultaneously will provide the first strong statistical evidence of extraterrestrial life. The instrument's ability to scan hundreds of planets across a variety of stellar types, including G-type, K-type, and M-type stars, ensures that the surveys will not be limited to a narrow slice of potential life-bearing worlds. Each observation builds a probabilistic picture, showing which types of stars and planets can maintain habitable conditions over billions of years. Life-bearing planets are far rarer than expected. The growing evidence is reshaping predictions about the prevalence of life in the galaxy. Early models assumed that the habitable zone alone was sufficient. The sheer number of Earth-sized planets suggested life should be common. But the next generation of instruments is poised to confirm what refined astrobiology already predicts. Habitability requires more than size and orbit. Atmospheres must be stable over geological timescales. Chemical compositions must support complex molecules. Magnetic fields must protect the surface from cosmic radiation. Oceans, plate tectonics, and stable climates are all factors that Earth offers but may be absent elsewhere. Preliminary surveys suggest that fewer than 1 in 100 Earth-sized planets may meet all these criteria. Louvois, Habex, and Origins will quantify this directly, measuring conditions across dozens of candidate planets and allowing scientists to build realistic models of galactic habitability. The implications extend beyond individual planets. Even if life emerges, the odds of it reaching complexity or intelligence remain low. Planets may host microbial life for billions of years without ever producing multicellular organisms. Catastrophic events, such as massive flares, asteroid impacts, or runaway climate processes, could reset evolution repeatedly. Planets that remain stable long enough to support complex life like that on Earth may be extremely rare. These new missions will help identify which stellar and planetary conditions correlate with stability, providing a clear understanding of why life is not universally abundant. As astronomers collect data over the next decade, the probability estimates will become sharper. Each observation informs models of galactic evolution, planetary system formation, and the factors that allow life to persist. Louvois, Habex, and Origins will create a census of nearby worlds, revealing the proportion that are genuinely habitable and capable of sustaining life for billions of years. These surveys may show that the Milky Way contains only a handful of planets capable of supporting Earth-like life simultaneously. The expectation that life is common will be replaced by the realization that it is fragile, dependent on a precise alignment of stellar, planetary, chemical, and geological factors. This emerging picture directly supports the idea that Earth may be exceptionally unique, not only in producing life, but in producing intelligent life capable of technological civilization. The next decade of astronomical observations will rewrite our understanding of life in the galaxy. Louvois, Habex, and Origins are not incremental steps. They are transformational. They will test decades of assumptions, measure atmospheres with unmatched precision, and provide the first statistical evidence of how rare life-friendly planets truly are. The combination of stellar surveys, atmospheric biosignatures, and repeated monitoring will produce data that can either confirm that Earth is ordinary or reveal that it is an exceptional anomaly in a vast, mostly silent galaxy. Every spectrum analyzed, every biosignature measured, and every planet categorized brings us closer to understanding our place in the Milky Way and whether we are among the first, rare, or potentially only technological civilization able to observe and understand the cosmos. The capability of these missions also reframes expectations for SETI. If planets with life are far rarer than once predicted, then civilizations capable of producing detectable signals may be vanishingly few. The simultaneous rarity of habitable planets and the narrow window for technological detectability makes the silence across radio, infrared, and optical surveys more meaningful. LUVOIR, HABEX, and Origins will provide the empirical foundation for this realization, combining high-resolution atmospheric scans with long-term observations to map the rarity of life. The instruments will reveal not only whether life exists elsewhere, but how fragile, short-lived, and isolated it is across the galaxy. The technology, methodology, and precision of this next decade of astronomy surpass any prior generation. Every planet studied, every atmosphere scanned, and every spectrum analyzed adds to a growing understanding of galactic rarity. Planetary systems previously assumed to be promising may be inhospitable. Worlds once considered Earth-like may fail the chemical, thermal, or dynamical tests that define habitability. These missions will produce hard data, not speculation, allowing scientists to quantify probabilities and refine models. The results are expected to underscore the notion that life-bearing planets are not common, that the conditions for life are narrowly constrained, and that technological civilizations capable of being observed are even rarer. In the coming years, LUVOIR, HABEX, and Origins will deliver datasets orders of magnitude larger and more detailed than anything before. Each observation will challenge assumptions, refine estimates, and shape the understanding of life's prevalence in the galaxy. These missions will either discover biosignatures on distant worlds, marking the first confirmation of extraterrestrial life, or they will reinforce the emerging picture of extreme rarity. Either outcome carries profound implications. A confirmation will demonstrate life's persistence under the right conditions, while continued silence will support the hypothesis that Earth may be among the first technological civilizations in the Milky Way. Every spectrum, every atmospheric scan, and every exoplanet catalogued over the next decade will become part of a growing dataset showing that the universe may be capable of life, but is overwhelmingly empty of civilizations advanced enough to be observed. Hostile stars and the limits of habitability. The galaxy is vast, containing hundreds of billions of stars, yet only a fraction provide conditions that could allow life as we know it. Galactic surveys show that most stars are either too volatile, too dim, or too short-lived for life to develop. Massive stars burn so fast that their lifespans are measured in millions of years, far too brief for planets to cool, stabilize, or generate complex chemistry. Supernovae, frequent around high-mass stars, release destructive radiation that sterilizes any nearby planetary systems. Even medium-sized stars are not guarantees of safety. Stellar flares, magnetic storms, and high-energy radiation can strip atmospheres from planets or irradiate surfaces to a point where life cannot gain a foothold. Red dwarfs, which make up the majority of stars in the Milky Way, present an especially harsh environment. While their longevity is enormous, spanning tens of billions of years, their planets are usually tidally locked, with one side permanently facing the star and the other shrouded in freezing darkness. Frequent flares and coronal mass ejections can overwhelm protective magnetic fields, leaving planets irradiated and atmospheres unstable. Surveys indicate that even within the habitable zone of a red dwarf, the chances of a stable, life-supporting atmosphere are extremely low, meaning that most of the galaxy's most common stars are inherently hostile to life. Planets themselves reflect the limits set by their stars. Observations show that the majority are either frozen, scorched, or airless. Rocky worlds may form, but without the right orbital distance, magnetic shielding, and atmospheric retention, these planets are lifeless shells. Gas giants dominate many systems, providing spectacular features for telescopes, but offering no life-bearing surfaces. Even moons orbiting gas giants face tidal stresses, radiation from magnetic fields, or volatile orbital instabilities that prevent long-term habitability. Statistical studies indicate that only a tiny fraction of planets in a galaxy as vast as ours could simultaneously satisfy the multiple conditions required to support stable liquid water, moderate climates, and protective atmospheres over billions of years. The universe produces stars at a scale far larger than life ever needs. Stars shine, burn, and die in patterns that favor nuclear processes rather than biospheres, highlighting the imbalance between stellar abundance and life-supporting environments. Spectroscopic analyses of interstellar clouds reinforce this picture. Molecular clouds contain the raw ingredients for planetary systems and potential life, including hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and trace organics. Yet surveys consistently show that molecules essential for life are present in surprisingly low abundances. Simple molecules such as formaldehyde or ammonia exist in detectable amounts, but complex chains capable of forming RNA or protein precursors are rare. Regions dense in heavy elements, necessary to form rocky planets, are themselves rare in the galaxy's outskirts, while the dense galactic center presents extreme radiation and dynamical instability. The chemistry necessary for life is therefore not evenly distributed. Most stellar nurseries produce planets chemically incapable of sustaining the self-replicating systems that define living processes. Stars dominate the universe, forming in patterns dictated by gravity and physics, while life's chemical requirements exist only in narrow, fragile niches. The Milky Way is a dynamic, violent environment on a galactic scale, and this violence has consequences for habitability. Gamma-ray bursts, supernovae, and active galactic phenomena occur regularly on cosmic timescales, sterilizing vast regions of potential life zones. Survey data indicate that long-lived, low-mass stars are distributed unevenly, concentrated in areas with fewer catastrophic events, while the denser, more central regions of the galaxy are inhospitable. High metallicity zones support planet formation, but these are often near areas with frequent supernovae or black hole activity. Outer edges of the galaxy contain calmer regions, but metallicity is often too low to form rocky worlds capable of holding atmospheres. Galactic habitability zones are therefore narrow, constrained by both radiation hazards and elemental scarcity. Stars dominate the galaxy not as hosts for life, but as engines of energy, mass, and chemical evolution. Life requires conditions that are not just rare, but exceptional: a stable planetary orbit, sufficient chemical building blocks, protection from radiation, and a prolonged period free of catastrophic disruption. Most stars and planets fail to meet these conditions, and surveys suggest that truly life-friendly environments are statistical anomalies. Planets that survive these threats face ongoing dangers from their local stellar environment. Supernovae, within a few dozen light-years, can strip planetary atmospheres in minutes, while gamma-ray bursts can irradiate a hemisphere in seconds, creating environments incompatible with chemistry-based life. Observations of star-forming regions show that massive stars disrupt their surroundings with winds and radiation, preventing nearby clouds from forming stable planets. Even systems appearing stable for billions of years can be destabilized by passing stars, orbital resonances, or migrating gas giants. The overwhelming prevalence of destructive events means that while stars are abundant, planets capable of supporting life for long enough to produce intelligence are extremely rare. Surveys of thousands of planetary systems reveal the patterns clearly. Most planets are victims of their stars' dynamics, chemistry, or catastrophic neighborhoods. Galactic chemistry itself favors destruction more than creation. Heavy elements needed for stable planetary crusts, magnetic fields, and atmospheres are produced in supernovae, but these same explosions pose existential threats. Interstellar clouds contain complex organic molecules, but their abundance is dwarfed by hydrogen and helium. Life's chemical building blocks exist in trace amounts, insufficient to guarantee the emergence of self-replicating systems without extreme luck. Even in molecular clouds rich in carbon and oxygen, the formation of RNA or protein precursors is highly improbable. Life as we know it requires a narrow balance of chemical availability, energy flux, and environmental stability, and galactic surveys show that these requirements are satisfied in only a tiny fraction of regions. Stars dominate the universe in number, energy, and influence, but planets capable of sustaining life remain exceptions, not rules. Life's fragile niches amid a stellar universe. The combination of stellar hostility and limited chemical abundance paints a universe where life is exceptional. Habitable environments occupy narrow bands around stable stars, often requiring a precise set of conditions that are easily disrupted. Planets must orbit at distances that allow liquid water but avoid extreme radiation, possess atmospheres thick enough to moderate climate, and have magnetic fields to protect against particle flux. Geological activity must maintain surface stability over billions of years. Plate tectonics must regulate carbon cycles, and oceans must remain liquid. Statistical analysis from galactic surveys suggests these conditions are not common. Even among stars with Earth-sized planets in the so-called habitable zone, many fail on secondary criteria: atmospheric retention, chemical composition, or orbital stability. Observations of planetary atmospheres in the habitable zone confirm these challenges. Many planets previously considered promising are either too hot, with runaway greenhouse effects that strip oceans, or too cold, frozen beneath nitrogen-dominated atmospheres incapable of sustaining liquid water. Tidally locked planets around red dwarfs face extreme temperature gradients, sterilizing surfaces or preventing stable climates. Even moderate planets can lose atmospheres over time due to stellar winds or chemical reactions, reducing the window for life to emerge. Surveys of thousands of exoplanets consistently show that Earth-like conditions are rare, making habitable planets statistical outliers in a universe dominated by stars. Chemical limitations further reduce the probability of life. Interstellar clouds are dominated by hydrogen and helium, with essential elements such as carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus present only in trace amounts. Complex organics, RNA precursors, and self-replicating molecules form only in specialized niches. The probability of these molecules assembling into functional life forms without catastrophic disruption is extremely low. Galactic surveys highlight the imbalance. Stars are abundant, energy-rich, and long-lived, while planets capable of hosting life are sparse and fragile. Life requires these narrow niches to coincide perfectly with temporal stability, chemical availability, and protection from radiation. Even minor deviations in stellar activity, planetary orbit, or chemical abundance can prevent life from developing or persisting. The observational evidence, combined with statistical analysis, paints a universe designed more for stars than for life. Most planets are barren, most atmospheres are inhospitable, and most regions of the galaxy are dominated by destructive phenomena rather than nurturing conditions. Life exists on a knife edge, confined to rare pockets where chemical, geological, and stellar factors align. Surveys of star-forming regions, exoplanet populations, and interstellar chemistry show that while planets are common, habitable worlds are a tiny subset. Stars dominate in number and energy output, while life is constrained to fragile islands, emphasizing that the universe favors stellar processes far more than it favors biological systems. Even within these niches, life remains fragile and contingent. Planets must survive billions of years without sterilization, maintain atmospheres, and avoid catastrophic collisions. The conditions that allowed Earth to form, stabilize, and produce complex life may be vanishingly rare elsewhere. Galactic surveys provide data confirming that stars dominate the cosmos in both quantity and influence, while life is rare, chemically constrained, and constantly at risk. The universe offers the energy and raw materials for stars to shine, but only the most exceptional environments for life to exist. Each new planetary discovery reinforces this pattern, showing that life's emergence is not guaranteed and is contingent on a chain of precise conditions and events, most of which fail across the vast majority of planetary systems. Earth as a statistical extremity. Across the galaxy, planets form in staggering numbers, billions upon billions, yet Earth is far from typical. Surveys of exoplanets reveal a striking pattern. Planets in the habitable zone are common, but planets that combine the right size, orbital stability, magnetic protection, atmospheric retention, and chemical availability are extremely rare. Earth sits in a narrow window where these factors coincide, a statistical anomaly rather than a predictable outcome. Geological evidence shows that the planet has remained habitable for almost 4 billion years, enduring shifts in solar output, orbital variations, and catastrophic events without losing its ability to support life. Long-lived plate tectonics have stabilized climate cycles, oceans have persisted, and the magnetic field has shielded life from radiation bursts. Most planets, even in habitable zones, fail to maintain these conditions. They lose their atmospheres to stellar winds, freeze entirely, or undergo runaway greenhouse states that sterilize surfaces. Earth is an exception, a product of an unlikely alignment of astrophysical and geological events that are rare across the galaxy. The Earth's chemical environment amplifies this rarity. Surveys of interstellar clouds and young planetary systems show that planets often form with either too few or too much of certain elements. Essential elements for life, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, are unevenly distributed. Many planets may form with cores too small to generate protective magnetic fields or atmospheres that cannot sustain liquid water. Even when chemical composition is adequate, planets are exposed to high-energy events like nearby supernova or gamma-ray bursts that erase any chance for life to persist. Earth avoided sterilization multiple times. Geological records indicate the planet survived the late heavy bombardment, massive asteroid impacts, global glaciations, and shifts in atmospheric composition that would have ended life on most worlds. The odds stacked against life are enormous, making Earth a statistical outlier in a galaxy of billions of stars and planets. Planetary surveys also show that long-term orbital stability is rare. Many systems contain giant planets whose gravitational influences destabilize inner worlds. Orbits of potentially habitable planets around red dwarfs are often tidally locked or prone to chaotic excursions that would prevent stable climates. Earth's orbit has remained exceptionally circular, avoiding extremes in temperature and radiation exposure. This stability has persisted over billions of years, allowing the gradual emergence of increasingly complex life. On a galactic scale, planets like Earth are not just rare, they are extreme statistical deviations, existing only because a perfect sequence of astrophysical, geological, and chemical conditions coincided. Earth's history demonstrates that survival requires a chain of improbable events, each stacking upon the other. Major glaciations covered continents in ice sheets that could have extinguished all life, yet microbial ecosystems survived in isolated refuges. Large asteroid impacts, which are common on planetary scales, repeatedly threatened global life systems, yet life persisted and recovered. Atmospheric shifts, such as those during the oxygenation events or mass extinction intervals, almost failed, but Earth retained the chemistry necessary for life to continue. Each event reflects a fine balance between catastrophe and survival, emphasizing that the accumulation of these improbable survival events is not typical across planets. Abiotic factors alone illustrate Earth's fragility. Volcanic activity provides critical cycles for nutrients, yet too much could release toxins or create a runaway greenhouse effect. Plate tectonics stabilizes climate, but can also trigger massive earthquakes and eruptions. Solar output has varied by several percent, enough to tip the planet into extremes of freezing or runaway heat, yet life endured. These conditions are interdependent. Magnetic fields, oceans, atmosphere, and tectonics must all function together. Most planets lack this synergy, meaning even if life begins, survival is far from guaranteed. Microbial life demonstrates additional constraints. Extremophiles show that life can tolerate harsh conditions, but complex life has far narrower tolerances. The rise of multicellular organisms depends on oxygenation, stable temperatures, and absence of sterilizing events for millions of years. Fossil records indicate that Earth experienced oxygenation events that nearly failed, threatening multicellular life repeatedly. Without these rare successes, intelligence could never have emerged. The history of life on Earth shows a persistent pattern of improbable events, survival against cosmic odds and environmental conditions finely tuned over billions of years. Each stage of evolution required the planet to survive extreme challenges, further emphasizing Earth as an extraordinary outlier in the cosmos. The rise of intelligent life. Intelligence is the most fragile outcome of all. Across billions of years, life on Earth remained dominated by simple organisms, prokaryotes, and small multicellular forms. Eukaryotic cells emerged only after a billion years of microbial evolution, and complex multicellularity took additional billions. The mitochondrial merger, a one-time evolutionary leap, created the energetic efficiency required for large, complex organisms. But this event may be unique across the galaxy. Intelligence arose only in one lineage, primates, after millions of years of environmental pressures, climate oscillations, and selective events that favored adaptability and social learning. Human evolution was shaped by a perfect alignment of physical and environmental conditions. Bipedalism freed hands for manipulation, allowing tool use and complex social interactions. Environmental pressures created cognitive challenges that selected for larger brains. Fire allowed cooking, which increased caloric efficiency and enabled brain expansion. Social structures provided the framework for language, cooperation, and cultural transmission. Each of these conditions was contingent on precise evolutionary and environmental factors. Across billions of species that have existed on Earth, only one lineage achieved technological intelligence, highlighting the extreme rarity of this outcome. Cosmic silence reinforces humanity's outlier status. Across multiple surveys, radio, infrared, laser, gravimetric, no evidence of technological civilizations has been detected. Megastructures, artificial energy emissions, or probes are absent in the solar neighborhood. Galactic timescales suggest that a civilization even 10 million years older than humanity could have colonized or signaled across the Milky Way, yet no signals or artifacts exist. This absence aligns with statistical improbability. Earth's combination of survivable planetary conditions, chemical availability, evolutionary luck, and environmental stability is rare enough that intelligent technological life is unlikely elsewhere, or extremely delayed. Humanity is therefore not just a rare species, but an extreme statistical deviation across cosmic scales. Every discovery, from planetary surveys showing rare habitable conditions to galactic studies showing destructive stellar environments, reinforces this. The cumulative evidence of improbability, survival, and emergence aligns with the observable silence. If intelligent life were common, we should see traces of it, but we do not. Earth's history, the fragility of life, the rarity of stable complex evolution, and the absence of cosmic techno signatures all point toward a universe where humanity represents one of the few, if not the only, technological civilizations currently present in the Milky Way.